Hey everybody. Today Rahdo talks through episode 42 of the podcast, and things are finally starting to get a little bit back to normal. Or at least as normal as our life can be after this crazy year. Essen and Gen Con are all done, so we're back to a regular format of just revisiting top 10s and doing Q&As and looking at new games. Hooray, although not quite. Still not 100% back to normal because we will not be doing any new games of interest this month. I went and looked to see what I've cataloged over the last few weeks, and very few new games have been announced that are going to be released this year. Of course, all the announcements now are for games that are coming out in 2019. So I figured I'd pass this month and maybe I'd have enough for a decent length segment next month. Plus, the other tricky thing is most of the things I talk about now, I talked about last month in the Essen Spiel preview extravaganza anyway. So we're just going to skip that and go right to top 10 revisits because it's been quite a while. I haven't done that since back in July, I think. Maybe even May? I'm not sure. So we've got some top 10s to revisit. And now we're going to go right to the Q's and A's because we've got a bunch. And so that should be a lot of fun. Jen will be joining me for that. But for now, hold on everybody, and we'll be right back to talk about some top 10s. Okie dokie. Top 10 revisits. There are 4 of them to talk about. Oh my gosh, I have been very remiss. And I'm going to be even more so because the first one I could talk about, my top 10 favorite board gaming memories. You know what? I don't know if I have much to add to that one. I mean, I kind of left everything on the field when I filmed that as my final farewell to Europe. It's actually kind of a little bit emotional thinking about all of it. But, I mean, there are definitely more things I could talk about, more people I could talk about having played with. But on a certain extent, they'd be kind of repeats of the stories I told. Like I talked about playing board games with my coworkers at Splash Damage. I could tell that same basic story with my coworkers at TRC, where I actually brought games in and introduced them for the first time. It was Lords of Waterdeep that was the really great gateway. But it's kind of the same stories I already mentioned. And there are definitely lots of other people I've played games with. I mean, obviously, I could talk at great length about my experience on my all-day gaming marathon with the Dice Tower down in Florida. That was absolutely crazy. Although there are even crazier games around that when I spent some quality gaming time with Jason Levine, the gaming machine. That was very interesting. But still, I think my top 10 there really stands. Those are the really big standout moments for me. And I have to admit, it's tough for me to come up with lots of memorable gaming moments anyway, because Jen and I play so many games, and I don't really have a good head for remembering a lot of, really interesting moments individually within the games. Never mind the fact that since we tend to play lots of Euro games, I mean, they're fairly dry. They are of the moment. They don't create, as often as not, these long-lasting stories that people will be talking about years from now. And that's fine. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for really engaging and deep, dynamic, exciting gameplay with interesting decisions, not so much about artificial drama created by a random assortment of story cards or what have you. Sorry, Arkham Horror fans. I know you love it. It's just not my thing. But anyway, I think I'm just going to let that top 10 favorite gaming moments lie and go on to the next one, which was revisiting my top 10 fantasy games. And that was really cool. Nobody seemed to pick up on how that was a really big transitional thing. My previous top 10 was saying goodbye as one of the last things I filmed in Europe. And then my next top 10 fantasy revisit was a 5-year anniversary of the first top 10 I ever did. But more importantly, it was one of the first, or I think it was maybe the first video I filmed from my new studio here in America. I thought that was very cool, but nobody really... Well, anyway, it's cool to me. And things have only been getting better now that I've gotten a little bit more settled in, but I'm still happy with how that video turned out. I guess if I were to revisit that topic, I should talk about the ones that didn't make it. I do actually have... Let's see, I did have it? Yeah. First of all, some people asked, come on, Shadowrun Crossfire? And I would have thought that would be self-evident if you actually watched the video itself. I wanted pure, straight meat and potatoes fantasy. No weird hybrid stuff. And Shadowrun Crossfire, it's one of my favorite games, but it is certainly not straight-up fantasy. And let's see, but Lords of Waterdeep didn't make it, and Claustrophobia didn't make it. Runebound 3rd Edition didn't make it. And man, so many people asked about Pathfinder, the adventure card game. Where are these other games? And Claustrophobia, I think, would be my number 11 right now. And a lot of people ask, well, what about the new Claustrophobia? Hey, check it out. Seek it out. It's still great. I know they've tweaked some stuff. I haven't actually looked into it because I'm very happy with my original. Maybe I'll end up picking up the new one eventually. I don't know. But Pathfinder, the adventure card game, man, I guess if for anybody asking why didn't that make my top 10, you never actually watched my top 10 of the year it came out, where I listed how it was a pretty disappointing thing after our initial excitement wore off and I realized some of the assumptions I made about the long-term playability of that game were never going to be delivered on. So, yeah. It's still a fine game, but it does not even remotely make it into my top 10, the Pathfinder. Although I do still have it, and I do still hope to someday finish the Rune Lords storyline. Oh, Mechs versus Minions? That was another question, another one people asked about. That's probably going to be in my top 20. But it just didn't make sense to me. I mean, because Jedi, we did play it all the way through, and after that we got rid of it because I didn't really feel like, even though I appreciated that they had done the work to make it replayable and have tougher difficulty levels and ways you can mix things up, I thought that was great. It didn't make sense to me. I don't think I would keep coming back to it the same way. Mechs versus Minions, I don't think you could play the same mission over and over and over again as many times as you could play the same mission in, say, Claustrophobia or Gloomhaven for that matter. So it didn't quite make it. Charterstone was another one people asked about, and to me, that's not pure fantasy. There's some fantastical fantasy light elements, but not really. Runebound 3rd Edition, maybe that's a top 20. Even with the co-op, it's definitely not top 10 material. And Legacy at Dragonholt, people asked, well, that's almost not even a game. That's just a collaborative storytelling adventure with some light game elements put in. And if I were to do a top 10 narrative moments, surely Legacy of Dragonholt would definitely make the top of that list. That'd be a really interesting top 10. Top 10 board game narrative moments. Oh, I like that. That would be 10 huge spoilers. But wow, I like that. I might have to put that on the list. Anyway. Oh, and a lot of people asked about, or several people asked about City of Kings. Where is that on the list? And honestly, that one I don't know. Maybe it could have made the list. I've only played the prototype of it, so I don't have the final version, and I can't really speak to that one. But, we were really super duper impressed with the prototype, so, maybe someday, maybe the next time I revisit this topic in another 5 years, the City of Kings will make it. And who knows, maybe... What was it? The Bones. Too Many Bones will make it too. That was another one people were wondering about. But anyway, yeah, that was fun. Revisiting and, just seeing how the landscape has changed so very much when it comes to Euro-ish fantasy board games. Awesome, awesome stuff. But let's see. So that was the second one. The third one was, my top 10 disagreements with Board Game Geek. And yeah, it seems like everybody wanted to explain to me how Board Game Geek rankings work and how the entire list was entirely invalid. And I'm like, dudes, or dudettes, I think it was all dudes. Perhaps you fundamentally don't understand what I was trying to do with that. I was just taking it, the statistical output that Board Game Geek generates. I was not putting any spin on it. I was not tweaking anything, just reading out a list and talking about those 10 games. And the reason I was really stoked to do this was because it gave me the opportunity to sing the praises of 10 games that I think are underrated. Now, sure, in some cases they're underrated strictly speaking because whenever a new game gets put on Board Game Geek, it gets hundreds of invisible 5 out of 10 ratings that it has to fight against, and it sometimes takes years to do it. But that's why I didn't do anything in the last 2 years. And some people point out, yeah, but some of those games you talked about, like Kashgar and what was the other one? There was one other specific one. Habitats. Yeah, they came out more than 2 years ago, but they've only gone into wide release more recently. And therefore, you shouldn't have considered them. But my feeling is still, it's what the list gave me, and I was just happy to talk about how awesome they are, because I do think they're awesome, and I would like to see them climb the ranks. So I was happy with the list as it was. One thing somebody did point out I mean, I was a real broken record when I filmed that. Why don't people understand it? I know full well why people don't understand it. I guess it was kind of a rhetorical question, but a few people wanted to point out that a big thing I overlooked, and it's true, I did completely forget, that my number one on that list, Shadowrun Crossfire, I was hypothesizing about people's misunderstanding about the difficulty levels, and true to form, a bunch of people responded saying, I just don't understand how the game is impossibly hard. And I'm like, no, the designers win 90% of the time. It's not hard. You just need to know it is hard, but you just need to know how to play. But one person did point out, maybe a few people pointed out, the one thing I overlooked is it got knocked down a lot, not because of the difficulty level, not because of the kind of abstract combat gameplay, but because of the stickers. And that's a very good point. And that's a real shame that people would just go on Board Game Geek and just, without even playing the game, automatically mark it down as a 1 or a 2 or whatever, because I don't want to have to put stickers on my game components and ruin them. Any game that, is it's self-destructive is a ripoff. It's a cash grab. And it's like, I feel so sad for people who feel that way, because they're just missing out on some really wonderful, meaningful, and impactful gravitas-filled gameplay, but c'est la vie. And even still, even if I agreed with that, it's not even remotely applicable to Shadowrun Crossfire, because you are not obligated to put those stickers on. I talked about this when I did my Dragonfire run through. They have this amazing technology called Post-it notes that you can just write on and say what your abilities are. You don't have to permanently... Anyway... Still, like I said, it was a great opportunity to talk about 10 games, although, to be fair, some of them I shouldn't have, because it was me, once again, waxing rhapsodic about games that nobody can get because they're long out of print. Which is why I thought it was hilarious that the very next month, the first time in quite a while that I've had voters choose my top 10, they go and choose out-of-print alternatives, which had to be maybe the toughest. I probably put more work into this one, researching and thinking and interacting with people. I talked in the video about the thread I relied on for Board Game Geek to get good suggestions. Man, so it was really disheartening when people would come on YouTube and say, you clearly didn't even give this a line of thought. Every single one of your choices is completely inappropriate and wrong, and this is such an easy task. And I'm like, if it's so easy, why don't you do it? But considering how I put so many hours of work into that topic, like I said, it was really kind of disheartening. But I'm still glad I did it. And if I were to revisit the topic, well, one thing I could certainly talk about is, for almost all of those 10, I had other stuff I was thinking about. Like, so hey, let's just count that down. In my number 10, Palaces of Carrara, I went with Isle of Skye, but I thought long and hard about a lot of different Euros. Castles of Burgundy, Firenze, Finca, Nauticus, and and then just going wider, broader. It's weird. A lot of people for that one wanted to talk about Grand Austria Hotel and all kinds of just more standard, or not standard, but Euros. I mean, there's been such a wonderful explosion of really solid Euros over the last few years, and it seems like everybody had their preferred favorite. I don't think any of them. I didn't see anybody make a suggestion as an alternative to Carrara that was better, to my way of thinking, than what Isle of Skye offers. But again, it's immaterial because it's not hard to get Carrara. So, if I moved on to the next one, what was the next one? It was, Rococo, which I went with Kanban. People think I'm crazy, yo. I get it, but again, I think a lot of people who responded to that just saw the list and didn't actually watch the video and listen to my argument for why I think it's the best fit you can get for Rococo. But to be fair, I did think also about Shakespeare and Milestones, and I was really, really close to going with Concordia, which is something a lot of other people suggested, because Rococo and Concordia both share that same kind of hand management, play a bunch of cards, pull them all back kind of thing. Ultimately, Concordia was not the way to go because you don't make things. That's why I said, I don't know, maybe there's just something different about my brain, but I have found from getting feedback on this video that I focused on things that were core and essential to the game experience that a lot of other people dismiss out of hand. And, people just want to... It seemed like there was a lot of, well, you should have just chosen a game that had the same theme or the same setting, even if it was radically different. Or you should have chosen one that had as close to matching game mechanisms. And to me, that theme and game mechanisms, while they are a part of the experience, they do not truly by themselves define the essence. Every game has something, some special little kernel, and that's always what I'm trying to identify whenever I do my final thoughts. What is the thing that makes this special? It's what drives me nuts that developers and board game marketers never actually talk about what makes this special. They just talk about theme and list off game mechanisms. That's not the heart and soul of the game. The heart and soul is these wonderful experiences you get. And so to me, I had to come up with something, or Rococo, that had you making things. And nobody made suggestions. But anyway, sorry. Moving on. Oh, Fjords. I went with Tuluva. I thought long and hard about Kingdom Builder, and the reason I didn't was because Kingdom Builder is just such a bigger, more sprawling experience. I wanted something that was small and tight and cozy and compact. But I didn't think of it, and some people suggested King Domino or Queen Domino. And I have to admit, I'm embarrassed, I did not think of that one. Had I thought of that, King or Queen Domino might have made the list. Maybe. Although I'm still pretty keen on Tuluva. I still think Tuluva is a really good fit. Then we moved on to Space Hulk Death Angel, where I went with Apocalypse Chaos. And honestly, like I said in the video, I felt bad about that one because it's another out of print, and it's probably gotten harder since my last two videos to find, but it's definitely worth seeking out. But if you can't, Shadowrun Crossfire or Dragonfire, either one of those is going to be a good stand-in for Space Hulk Death Angel. Yes, they don't have dice, but hey, neither is Apocalypse Chaos. But dice are not what makes Space Hulk Death Angel the thing. It's that notion of you are the world and the bad guys move around you instead of vice versa. That's what makes that so cool. Ginkopolis. That also got a fair bit of flack. We mentioned in Guilds of London, and I'll cop to it. That was probably my weakest one. Not that there's anything wrong with Guilds of London. It's a great game, but Ginkopolis is so crazy, quirky, outside the box, brilliant. There's just nothing even remotely like it. My first thought was to go with Carson City, or Between Two Cities, or now Between Two Castles, of Mad King Ludwig, because, hey, those are tile layers where everybody's working together on the same space. Or a more recent game I could have mentioned, Fertility. Those might have made more sense because, again, they did get that one core thing of everybody's working on the same thing. A lot of people just said Carcassonne. I'm like, if you suggest Carcassonne as a replacement for Ginkopolis, you're clearly not paying attention to what I'm trying to do with this video. But anyway, yeah, there's just no good answer. And none of those, I have no good answers. I hope that, I know the guys behind Ginkopolis at Pearl are trying to find publishing partners to bring this wonderful gem back. But so far, they've got nada. And so I'm just going to, that's why I put it on the list. Honestly, I put this on the list knowing that they're trying, because I just hoped in some small, tiny way, my little contribution could generate some more enthusiasm, some more buzz, maybe put it back on the top 10 for, hotness on Board Game Geek for a little bit, because that often happens with the games I mentioned in my top 10s, just to up the chances of it going back into print someday. Alrighty, but moving on to SOS Titanic. Onirim, just not quite the same. In all honesty, probably the best one. I didn't choose this, but I thought about going with Finished, which is from Freedom and Freeze. And because it has the same feeling of being a game that should have existed forever as just like an abstract card solitaire type experience that somebody found a way to add theme to. That's what Finished feels like, same way SOS Titanic does, even though they're radically different. I didn't go with it, though, because Finished you cannot play cooperative. And I think SOS Titanic is a great cooperative game, even though it was originally designed to be solo. And that's true for Onirim as well. So that's what I focused on, and that's why it made the list instead of Finished. Or Friday. Friday would have been an excellent choice as well. Both from Freedom and Freeze, but both solo only, so they stayed off the list. Carcassonne Castle. Well, obviously Carcassonne, but no. I'm still going to stick by Mercado. Some people have said that there's another game that does. Let me see if I can find that in the YouTube thread for this. I want to say it was like Sunrise City or something like that. Was that what it was? Oh, I don't remember now. But I don't think, if it's the one I'm thinking of, that doesn't work quite the same. And whereas Mercado does, so Mercado still wins, even though it's not even remotely a tile layer, it's an auction game. But again, I have my reasons. Seventh Continent, I was very, very close to mentioning either time stories, or just a broad general purpose escape room games. I could have easily said those. Because again, the most important thing to me about what makes Seventh Continent's experience special, putting aside the card management or the clever save system or the moody atmosphere or the strong passive narrative storytelling, putting all that aside, what makes it so important is the fact that the entire game is crafted by hand. And that's true for escape room games. That's true for time stories. A lot of people suggested the new game from Fantasy Flight, Discovery, I think it's called, which, to be fair, I haven't played yet, and I have to admit, I kind of dismissed it out of hand because more than anything else, it does not have that notion of somebody having handcrafted, hand-sculpted an adventure for you to explore. Oh, Discover Lands Unknown. Easily a dozen people said I should have said Discover Lands Unknown. I don't think so. One, it's not guaranteed to be cooperative. And so that's a reason to dismiss it immediately. But equally and probably more importantly is the fact that there's a little bit of designer-led narrative in there, but it's very light. Mostly it's just a bunch of random stuff put together because that's the actual business model of the game. A bunch of modules randomly put together in a box. So no, not even close to what makes Seventh Continent so wonderful. Although, folks, just today I got in the mail a prototype for a game that's going on Kickstarter in December, Tainted Grail. Oh my gosh, this looks amazing. This looks to me to be a combination of, again, not necessarily in raw gameplay mechanisms, but in what makes it special. Seventh Continent meets Gloomhaven, set in a dark Arthurian legend universe. It looks balls to the walls, bonker amazing, awesome. It's from the same people that did this War of Mine. I am so stoked to get it to the table. And in fact, yeah, that would have made, I think, if I'd done a Games of Interest, I would have mentioned. But hey, I'm going to do a video for it. You'll see it when it goes on Kickstarter. But just a sneak peek. It looks amazing. And had I learned more about it at the time, I might have mentioned it in my top 10 as the ultimate Seventh Continent replacement. Let's see. Oh, and then Walnut Grove. You know what? I don't think anybody had a problem with my alternative of Field of Green at all. Somebody mentioned Agricola. And I thought that was interesting, but no, not really. It's not the same. Agricola is a big, long, sprawling game. Walnut Grove is tiny and tight, and it just has kind of a different focus. Several people just started mentioning, what do you call it? Old games set in the Old West, like Homesteaders or Pioneer Days. But again, just because it's the same theme doesn't mean it captures the spirit of the game. But I think Fields of Green was the thing that came closest. But I was very close to mentioning Habitats as an alternative. And again, I was also very close to mentioning Isle of Skye as an alternative for Walnut Grove. But I didn't. Ultimately, I put Isle of Skye wherever I put it. Oh, as the alternative for Palaces of Carrara, I thought that was a better choice. I didn't know if I should do a 2-for-1 like that. But anyway, the number one, Glory to Rome, this was probably my biggest mistake. I mentioned this, a lot of people ask, well, hey, what are you talking about when you're talking about other games that use the Glory to Rome formula? There is Motainai, there is Impulse, to a lesser extent, there is Innovation, there is Uchronia, there is Import-Export, there is Food Truck Champion. There is a game that just came out at Essen, which had I known about it, I might have mentioned this one because from what I've read, it sounds really great. Captains of the Gulf. There's a lot of really good Glory to Rome alternatives. I'll still stand by the one I did, La Granja, even though it's a bit more far out. But the reason I didn't do Import-Export as the stand-in, even though it's arguably the most perfect stand-in available, it is almost as good as Glory to Rome, and it is just as deep and wonderful and quirky and amazing. I didn't mention it because at the time I thought it was impossible to get. For all these ones, when I was trying to find out if you could get them, I just went on Board Game Prices, saw, oh look, it's easy to get. Okay, I'll mention this one instead. Import-export didn't show up. So I thought it wasn't available to get. I was wrong. It's easy to get. It's only available directly via the publisher. And had I known that, I probably would have put import-export in instead. So my apologies to the designer publisher of that. If you want Glory to Rome, it is so worth seeking out. Phew. Okay, folks. Well, that was a quick recap on some top 10. Now, let me put you on hold for a second, and I'll go find Jen so we can start doing some Q's and some A's. Hey everybody, welcome back. Time for some questions, and I'm going to apologize up front for teasing Jen. Jen Appearance, rather. I did go up and ask her, and she said, "Oh, could I skip the game-related stuff?" Because, to be fair, she rarely has much to say about the game-related questions. She'll come for the personal. Don't worry. After we're done with the game-related Q&A, she'll be here for the personal. But her parents are arriving tomorrow. And she's under a lot of stress because, of course, everything has to be perfect. I should be out there helping her clean up and get everything into the right place. The stuff that we've just been letting slide, she feels like, I got to get all of it done today because her parents are visiting. And actually, I'm going to be vacuuming and on toilet cleaning duty after we're done with this. So I'm in no hurry. So let's have a nice leisurely Q&A section, and we'll get Jen in later for the personal stuff. But right now, let's go to David, who has a question about Board Game Geek rankings. Let's see here. In my September episode, talked a bit about the rankings and how I feel they're broken. Broken's too strong a word, but I'm not a fan. No, okay, yeah, they are kind of broken. The bottom half, the top half is okay, but the way I've talked about it at great length. And as I can see, David has gone to my FAQ where I do go into great depth about it. But he was wondering if I could expand a bit on what I feel about the list should be reflecting. Currently, 7 of the 10 games are from the last 3 years. So there's obviously a recency effect. He must mean the top 10 games. The top 10 games on, so... as a fellow rankophile, do you think this reflects well in the hobby to have so many new games that are considered the best of all time? What do you think about Board Game Geek creating a top 100 list based on an aggregate rating of the people in the board game industry? Well, one, I don't think your last question would be particularly useful because so many members of the board game industry only play their own stuff or don't really get a good sense of everything. I understand what you're saying. Something more definitive might be worthwhile, but in all honesty, I suspect you'd see that same kind of cult of the new. Doesn't matter whether it would be nothing but board game reviewers or board game industry professionals or just the editorial staff of Board Game Geek itself. There's no two ways about it. It's always going to skew new because to answer your question, what do I think this reflects? It reflects that we are a very young, brand new, nascent, is that right pronunciation, industry. I've said this before. We are basically, the board game industry is basically at the same place that the motion picture industry was in the 1910s and the 1920s. If there were websites that were making, breakdowns of the 100 greatest games of all time back in the 1930s, you would expect it to be constantly filled up with stuff that's been only around since the 1930s because it hasn't been going that long. And the fact that not only are we in my opinion, a period of rapid expansion and growth just in terms of the raw numbers of games that come out every year because it's starting to get a little bit of traction in pop culture. We are also in a wonderful time where the quality of games is growing exponentially. We are not to the point yet where everything under the sun has been done and it's all just boring retreads. Every year, cool, new, amazing, mind-boggling, altering stuff comes out because we're still figuring out how to, make a better car in this, we're still trying to figure out how can we push these collections of wood and cardboard to the limit. And to me, that's so exciting. I think it's entirely appropriate. Something would be wrong if at this baby stage, this larval stage that our industry is in, for it to be filled with nothing other than stuff that came out before 1970 would make no sense to me at all. Let's see. And also the top 10, let's do the top 100. Let's see. Board Game Geek, go browse games. Looking at the top 100 on Board Game Geek, Control F, parenthesis, 200. Okay, of the top 100 games, 20 of them are from the first decade of this millennium, from 2000 to 2009. That sounds about right. About 1 out of every 5 of the greatest games of all time are over a decade old. And within the more recent decade that we find ourselves in now, 4 out of every 5 have come because, again, we're just in this incredibly exciting period where there's just nothing but more and more amazing stuff coming out all the time. All kinds of breakthroughs in design, in production, in art, in everything that goes into games. So, what does it reflect? It reflects that this is a good time to be a gamer. Check back in 70 years. In 70 years' time, if you go to Board Game Geek and look at the top 10, I suspect you won't see quite so much Cult of the New. You'll see a much broader and more mature rating. In the same way that if you go look at the top 100 on Internet Movie Database, you see that broad range. That Casablanca sits next to Indiana Jones, sits next to, I don't know, something that came out last year probably. It sits next to Inception. That feels like it has a broader and more mature and more scoped view, although there are always weird outliers. And I suspect you'll see that when we get 100 years into board games development as well. It's all brand new. It's very exciting, David. Okay, Ben wonders, 2 questions. I know you stored some games in your house in London while living in Malta. Where in the house were they stored? An attic? Did you notice any issues with the games? Molding, warping, etc.? Answer: yes. Although, quite frankly, I had plenty of problems with that. Forget about keeping the attic. Everything that we had on the shelves in Malta, after a few years would start molding. Oh, folks, it's sad. It's a sad, sad state of affairs. Some of my older games from 8, 9, 10 years ago when I first got into, they've all got mold in them now. Although it's amazing. It's usually just the untreated inside of the box lids and stuff like that. It seems like there's something about the shiny reflected surface of the actual game pieces themselves. They don't seem to mold. I find, the wooden pieces, they get mold on them and stuff like that, but the actual cardboard shits, the cardboard boards, usually don't tend to get moldy. Although I have noticed on the back of some of them they get moldy, again, because I guess they're just not treated with the same kind of reflective, shiny surface. Linen finish, I don't know what it is. Fortunately, I haven't had too much of a problem because for almost all the games on my shelves, if you open them up, you'll find they're baggied up, and anything I put in a baggie has not really been too much of a problem. So mostly it's just been the boxes themselves that get moldy. Still, it is kind of bothersome. I'm not really happy about it, but it is what it is. And to your question about what we stored in England, I didn't see that problem. The games that we got down that had been sitting in our British attic for a decade, or almost a decade, they seem to come out of it just fine. I don't know what it is about it. I guess there just wasn't that much humidity in the air, even though, of course, there's tons of rain in England. Or maybe it was just something to do with the nature of our attic. Maybe I just got lucky. But yeah, I got so much mold. It's not pretty. It's not pretty at all. With all the recent new hires at Board Game Geek, would you accept a position to work there if they reached out to you? I don't know. I'd certainly consider it, but probably no. I'm going to get a drink of water here. I spent way too many years working for other people. And and I think Aldi knows that because I suspect he would be happy to have me on the team the same way that he brought in Rodney Smith. And I think he knows I would have said no. Because we've talked about, he and I have a shared past, a shared history in the video game industry and how it's kind of burned both of us out. So, yeah, I don't know. I would certainly be touched. Like I said, I'd strongly consider it, but I'd almost guaranteed say no. And I can say that because I have said no to several publishers. Lots of publishers have come to me and said, "Hey, Rahdo, could we hire you on just even part-time to be our hype guy, our guy at the conventions who comes and talks about all the new games and, and demos to, retailers at Gamma Trade Show and stuff like that." I've had, small publishers and big publishers ask me to do that. The biggest one would be, what do you call it? Asmodee. They asked me, I don't know if you noticed, this year they had Becca Scott doing like all their live streaming. They actually asked me to do that, and I said no. And I don't know if I was their first choice and Becca was their second, or maybe they wanted me and Becca to co-host. But yeah, I like working for myself. I like working for you folks. You guys are very good bosses. You've been very, very good to me. And I'm just not comfortable having to be responsible to somebody who, writes a paycheck for me. Like I said, I am responsible. You guys, through Patreon, you keep us, you keep me from having to go back and getting a full-time job. But, there's something different. There's obviously like a firewall between me and you. It just doesn't feel the same. I do feel still like I work for myself, even though I have a very strong sense of duty and obligation to you, my viewers, to deliver what I think you want and what you tell me you want with the voting and all of that. But yeah, working for somebody, working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living, barely getting by. It's all taken in, no given. Sorry. Yeah, I'd be interested, but I don't think so. Interesting question, though. Brendan wonders, in the last podcast, I mentioned minigames that have good BGG descriptions that get me excited to investigate further. Could I elaborate? For example, what are 3 things a description should do to provoke interest? Could you provide a couple standouts? I'm not going to provide standouts because that means I'd have to spend a lot of time searching. And as you know, I like to keep it loose and just answer on the fly. But I can tell you, actually, I was actually talking about this just a little bit ago, kind of. What the board game marketers of the industry fail to understand is the number one thing they have to sell their game is not a cool theme, is not interesting gameplay mechanisms. The number one thing they have to get across is what makes their game experience special and different. When a board game description, there's almost kind of a formula now. They talk about, well, here's the setting, here's who you are, and it's a worker placement game of excitement and treachery or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, so you told me it's a worker placement game. Why should I be excited that it's a worker placement game? I played so many worker placement games. There are so many of them out there. If you want to talk about how you are a worker placement game, then you need to tell me why you are special and different and what makes you stand out from the crowd. Nobody seems to do that. It's amazing to me. It's very, very rare. And I know this because I read the descriptions on probably 95% of all games that get put onto Board Game Geek, because at least once or twice a week, I spend probably an hour or more looking at my RSS feed. Oh, here's all the new games that have been listed. Let's go on ahead and read these descriptions. And time after time after time, it's just so cookie cutter, trying to get me excited by the setting. The setting is not what makes your game special. With very few exceptions. There's a few exceptions, like this War of Mine. A big part of what makes that game special is the setting. But if you are a science fiction or a fantasy game, your setting is not special. Don't waste my time telling me about the Galactic Empire and how we're struggling from the dark days of the destruction from the ancient ones that have now. That's boring. Boilerplate, heard it, seen it a million times. I'm sorry if you're proud of it and you've put a lot of work into it. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't mean to disparage it, but that's not what makes your game special. What makes your game special is those cool moments that that separate it in terms of the actual gameplay experience, not the fact that, oh, look, we've combined card drafting and worker placement. Isn't that cool? No, it's not cool. What's cool is explaining to me why that feels special and different. What kind of excitement will that generate for me? And nobody does it. And I do it. That's the main thing I try to talk about in my final thoughts is, why did I respond to this game the way I did? What is it that made us enjoy it? What made it special? After Board Game Publishers, after you've written it, before you press submit, because of course Board Game Geek is a database that anybody could edit, ask yourself, have I explained what makes this game special? Chances are you haven't, and you should go back and revisit until you get that. That's the important thing. Alrighty. It seems like such a no-brainer, but yeah, we're, like I said, we're a young industry. We haven't necessarily learned all these very basic tricks that the TV industry and the movie industry and the video game industry have down pat. Anyway, next up, Scott wonders, how do Jen and I approach a game that has a set amount of turns to ensure we don't get caught out with one turn to go and realize we haven't achieved enough? For instance, Zulk in the Mayan Calendar or Grand Austria Hotel. Alrighty. Okay, honestly, I think that's less likely to happen because when I'm actually teaching somebody else how to play a game, it's just one of the reasons Jen beats me so often, or at least I like to tell myself it is. I spend an equal amount of time paying attention to my game as I do paying attention to the overall experience, trying to make sure I haven't missed something, trying to make sure I have a big picture understanding, and trying to communicate that to everybody. If you ever end up playing a game with me, you will see I have a very, very hard time stifling the urge to articulate every single thing that I observe about the game. And that includes, oh my gosh, this game is going to end in 2 rounds. And in fact, I do nothing but hurt myself when I recognize, if it's, we have to hit a certain point threshold and that's what's going to trigger the end of the game. And I can see, next turn I'm going to do that. There's nothing's going to stop that. I've got it figured out. In 2 turns, this game is going to be over. You better believe I tell my opponents that. I know, and Jen, she's like, I'm knee deep into all these permutations, these machinations. It's going to be amazing in 5 rounds. I'm always the first to say, honey pie, I just want to let you know, this game is going to be over at the end of next round. You have this turn and one more turn before it's over. Just FYI. That's a big, big part. I see those ends coming. At least, I certainly know it's coming if it's going to be me that triggers the end of it, and I do not keep that a secret because I would feel bad if I did, because I know full well then, surprise, the game is ended. Just how terrible that feels for everybody else who, it's anticlimactic, it's very unsatisfying, and I don't want to cause anybody to feel that way. So, it certainly doesn't help my overall strategy because, of course, I should go for the secret, sneaky, stealthy early game end so that I can capitalize when nobody else does. I'll probably lose if I give them a heads up about what I'm doing, but I'll still do it anyway. And that's the answer. Jen is not quite as forthcoming with that kind of information. She's still got a bit of a shark in her, but she's getting better about that. Let's see, you also asked, has Jen ever sat down and worked out the end goal, picked a target for monuments, etc., and how to get there before the first move of the game? Sure, yeah. That's a sign of a great game if it gives us the opportunity for that. That's why Agricola still sits in both our top 10 games of all time, because there's no better poster child for the game that lets you plot out the entire ebb and flow of your experience. Now, of course, Agricola will create some confounding factors. You don't know exactly what order the worker placement spots are going to be made available. You don't know exactly when you're going to be able to get access to resources because maybe other people want those sheep too. But it doesn't change the fact that, success at Agricola is not, quote, doing a little bit of everything. It's not that. It's figuring out what things are you going to completely ignore, what are you going to do, and knowing what order you're going to play these cards. And Jen and I, any game that lets us do that instantly goes into Hall of Fame territory for us because very few games do. And that's something that is really, really special. So yes, Jen has definitely done it. So have I. It's kind of in our nature. And like I said, it's kind of in our nature to figure out, right, okay. Yeah, anyway, sorry. Natalie says, when gaming with Jen, do just the two of us, how do we sit? Next to each other, opposite side, facing each other? That's pretty easy. We always sit... what would you call it? At the corner. I'm at like north and she's at west, or I'm at south and she's at east. We always sit at the corner from each other. In part, because we like to sit closer to each other because we love each other. We want to be able to reach out and give assuring shoulder pats if things don't go well, or be able to reach over and say, "Oh, I don't think you noticed. Have you forgotten you have this piece of equipment here? You should really be using that." We need to be able to sit close so we can see what's going on with each other, and just because we like we kind of love each other. So that's how we always sit. If we have the possibility. Even in games where the board is designed such that, no, you're supposed to sit opposite each other, we will then take that board and put it at a 45-degree angle so it's still between us and we can still sit on corners. And let's see. Oh, then how do you place the game board when playing? Does one person play upside down, or do you rotate the game board so it's the wrong way for everybody? Does this change depending on player count or what kind of game you play? Well, it doesn't change depending on player count because our player count doesn't change. I can say, when we first started playing, and we were playing in England, our kitchen situation didn't really allow for us to sit never mind the fact that it was a round table we sat at. So we did sit opposite each other. And my inclination was always to enhance her experience by having the board face her, because I don't mind playing upside down at all. It doesn't affect me, doesn't bother me. Or at least that's what I thought. After I started doing Rahdo runs through, I changed, and I always go out of the way to make the board, well, there's two ways it can go. If I need to, if it has to face one of us, I'll have it face me. And that's strictly because it helps ensure I will do a better job of filming the game the next day or the next week or the next month. Because when I'm going to film it, it's facing me. Not because I want it to face you, the audience. And if I have played the game several times upside down, I learned that, when I actually come around and start playing it right side up, because I'm going to film it that way, suddenly everything's the wrong, and I reach to the wrong areas, and it just makes the overall presentation just a little bit more cumbersome and sloppy for me. So I have switched to where I always have the boards face me. Although that's not always true. Space permitting, I always try to rotate, it's not any board 45 degrees, so it's kind of equally facing both me and her. That is the ideal. That's what we try to do, but it doesn't always fit. And if it doesn't, then we're going to have it face me. It's something we talked about, and Jen said, that's fine, I don't mind. And so it makes for better run-through videos. Okie doke. Alicia says 5 questions. Alrighty, although I think some of these are personal. So, we'll come back to her later, but for now, she wonders, after I get a drink of water, she's noticed that many people are turned off by the aesthetics of Carpe Diem, one of the 2 new games that have come out from Steffenfeld this year. As an aside, I have not seen it myself. I haven't gotten my copy yet. The publisher said they were going to send it to me, and we're way past Essen. I'm thinking they're not going to send me a copy. Oh, man, so many games came out at Essen that I just don't know if they are ever going to show up here now. It's really, really kind of depressing. But anyway, so there have been many complaints about the graphic design hindering the OK experience, color choices primarily. This made me think there are just too many great games these days with excellent artwork, design, and components to publish a game with such a dated look. But then again, better quality can also mean higher MSRP. Manufacturer suggested retail price. What are your thoughts on the matter, both in terms of personal preference and trends in the industry? Well, like I said, I've heard the same thing, that Carpe Diem looks like it was a game that was published 10 years ago from Aaliyah. And hey, it was Aaliyah, and Aaliyah says, yeah, we're just going to keep publishing games like we did 10 years ago. I can't speak to that. I know when I have seen other games where people level that complaint, I have not shared the complaint. And really, there's no better example of that than the Aaliyah Castles of Burgundy, also from Aaliyah, also from Steffenfeld, a game that came out 10 years ago and looks like it came out 10 years ago. I guess I don't get that. To me, it looks great. Maybe it doesn't look as awesome as modern games, but I don't know. I am certainly influenced and motivated by artistic presentation and smart graphic design. Make no mistake. But that is not the make or break for me, especially considering how many prototypes I play for games that are on Kickstarter and whatnot. So, I guess it's a shame. I I guess one should contrast and compare Carpe Diem, which represents the height of board game presentation from a decade ago, with Coimbra, which is an amazing jumble of color and life and vibrancy. And, there's no reason games couldn't have looked like that 10 years ago, but they just didn't put the time and effort into it. So I get it. There's no choice about it. And it's a shame, but by the same token, it doesn't bother me. So that's in terms of personal preference. In terms of trends for the industry, yeah, I guess you've got old dogs, you've got old guard who just don't value that kind of a newfangled modern presentation. They just don't think it's worth spending the extra money. And I guess that's only going to hurt them. That's a shame. I'm sure Carpe Diem is a great example of a game that could reach a wider audience if a more modern presentation aesthetic was applied. And I will feel bad for Stefan Feld and anybody who was involved with the development of that game that it didn't reach its full potential. That's a shame. Yes, all games should strive to reach their full potential in terms of audience presentation. And I definitely think, when you can go on to Fiverr.com these days and find amazing, mind-bogglingly good artists who cost next to nothing. The Miko is the hottest artist today. And as I understand it, he still doesn't charge very much. And he's incredibly fast. But people don't want to go because he doesn't produce something that looks like it's the heir apparent to Kalis. Well, I don't know. I guess I feel bad a little bit, but if that's what you want to do, more power to you. There are plenty of other games. But it doesn't bother me. I'm still super stoked. Carpe Diem is still in my top 10 of games I got to play before the game is out. Please, I got to get a copy of it. All right, but anyway, sorry. That was Alicia's first question. And her second question is a personal one, so we'll come back to that later. My third is, what 3 trends are you happy to see in the board game industry? What 3 things do you think need improvement in the industry? What needs to be improved in the industry? I'm happy. I've complained about before. I'll stay on my soapbox. The number one thing, and it's so important, it's also the number 2 and the number 3 thing, is developers have to get better about rule books. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's the number one thing holding back our industry, that rule books make so many stupid, mind-bogglingly dumb mistakes just because there's a formula they have to adhere to. Front-loading information, not using the back page as a summary, not using the center gatefold as because that's where if you just randomly open a manual, chances are you're going to open to the center, and that should be the place where you put your most oftenly needed to be checked information, because it's where the book just naturally falls open. There are so many simple things that could be done and just repeatedly are not done. There is nowhere near enough blind play testing on these rule books, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. It's not that hard to do a good job, and yet and I say this as somebody who went to college as a technical design. My major was scientific and technical communication. I trained to write manuals, or to take Byzantine heavy complex engineer scientist speak and convert it into something that people can read. There are very simple psychological underpinnings you need to understand that have to do with how human beings absorb and learn information. And if you do that, if you understand these things, it's not hard to make a good rule book. But time and time again, because of holdovers from the way wargame manuals used to be written, they just keep writing terrible, terrible prose. And it's such a shame. So I am not happy to see that the industry does not seem to be, and actually this year I've noticed more and more, if anything, just more front-loading of information, which is just the stupidest thing you can do. Drives me nuts. I've gotten to the point where I just don't even read them anymore. All right, okay, I've got to skip to page 10. All right, here's where the rulebook starts. Fine, great. You're an idiot, rulebook writer. You're an idiot. You are hurting the game. You're hurting the industry. So yeah, I feel so strongly about that. I'm not going to give you 3 things. That's the only thing, because across the board, the industry is making great. I mean, it's doing better about gender inclusion and social justice warrior type stuff. I think that's great. It's getting better and better in terms of presentation. They recognize the importance of it's what your first question was about. I mean, they're making great strides there. I mean, I love seeing the integration of digital. I love seeing the integration of legacy. I love seeing the integration of narrative. And campaign stuff. There's so many things that are going great. And yet we seem to be standing still when it comes to rulebooks. Drives me bananas. Bananas, bananas. Let's see. And then our next question is another personal one. And your next one. Okay, so we are done with Alicia. We'll come back to your personal stuff when Jen is here. Okay, Christopher says, I was wondering if you're planning on updating your top 10 games for 2017. Oh, Chris, I'm so sorry. I haven't done it. I'll be honest with you, Chris. The only reason I haven't done it, the only reason is I have not gotten, can't think of the name, Rotating 180 Degrees, because I know exactly where it is. Spirit Island. I have not gotten Spirit Island back to the table, and I know that's going to be pushed in my top 10, because it's been so long since I played it. Years ago I played it for the Kickstarter campaign or actually no, it wasn't. It was right after the Kickstarter campaign ended. It was a weird thing. But I remember how much we loved it, and I gotta play it again because I gotta imagine it's gonna push into the top 10, and I haven't found the time to do it. At this point, I think it might not happen until, I wish they had actually contacted me. I would have happily covered the expansion when it was on Kickstarter, but they never even reached out to me. So, c'est la vie. I do intend, let's see, actually, let's take a quick look. Let's look. If I were to go to ranked.rahdo.com, and if I were to go to Rahdo Top 10 2017, let's just do it right now. Let's update right now. Okay, so if I go to my Top 10 2017, and scroll down, because I always list everything. All right, my number 10 was Pulsar 2849, Castle Burgundy Dice Game, Pandemic Legacy Season 2, etc., etc. Now, going to rank.rahdo.com, search for parenthesis 2017. All righty, let's look. My 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. I see things have changed a little bit. All righty. Why is that? I'm not sure. But my number 10 currently for 2017 is Otis. Apparently I had not played Otis. Otis was not on my list before. Otis has pushed in and pushed out. But Pulsar 2849 is at number 9. Okay, which is interesting because it was at number 10 before. So what has happened here? And then we've got Castle Burgundy Dice Game. That's the same. Charterstone. Yeah, Charterstone is the same. Oh, okay, no. I don't have Pandemic Legacy Season 2. I don't have it on my ranked lot list because I consider it to be a expansion, etc., etc. So, no, I bet you everything else is going to be the same, isn't it? Right. No, London doesn't count. I didn't put London because even though it got second edition, I would still consider it to be... So Pandemic is in there. London is not. Then we've got this War of Mine, which was there. Near and Far. Jump Drive. Was Jump Drive there before? Yes, it was. Santa Maria, Gloomhaven. Okay, yeah, so Gloomhaven, Santa Maria, Jump Drive, Dragonfire, which isn't in my list because I did put it there. This War of Mine, Near and Far, Charterstone, Pandemic Legacy, Burgundy Dice Game, Pulsar. Right, okay. So, we get to Pulsar. So it hasn't really changed. And so nothing's changed. Otis just didn't make the top 10, and I think that's true. So nothing has changed yet. Nothing has pushed its way in at this point. Like I said, let's continue on. Let's look at games I have down at the bottom of ranked that aren't ranked because I haven't played them yet. The Fast Forward series, yeah, that's not going to happen. Ancestry, Hunt for the Ring, no, those are not going to happen. Village Attacks, no. Dicey Peaks, no. Spirit Island, maybe. Pyramids, maybe, probably not. Anachrony, maybe. Maybe Anachrony. I do have the final copy of it. I have not played it. All right, so Anachrony and Spirit Island might punch their way in. Now I got to go to the second page, 2017. Fast Forward is not. We did play Fast Forward, Fear, and Fortress, and oh my gosh. Talk about examples of rule books gone awry. Although, to be fair, they're experimental rule books, so I'll give them a pass, but haven't tried, not Flea, or no, Flea. Haven't tried Flea yet. That's the only one that might make it. Fire Ride some X games. No. Yeah, so the only thing that might change is those 2 games might push them in. I haven't gotten a chance to see, so I'm sorry. I still don't have an answer for you. I still haven't done it. Nothing has changed, Christopher. Moving on to Griffin, who just recently started his senior year in college. Good job, Griffin. But funds are tight. Feel the urge to add a new bundle of board game joy. If you could recommend 3 small games that are on the more expensive side, what games would you do? Oh, Griffin, I am sorry. What I'm going to do is recommend you go check out faq.rahdo.com. Let's see, what entry is it? faq.rahdo.com. Where is my at-a-glance table of contents? Entry number 5. faq.rahdo.com, entry number 5 has the answer to your question. I'm sorry, Griffin. But wait! Oh, your other question was personal. So, yeah. Also, Griffin, I couldn't answer that one anyway. 90% of all the games I play, I don't even know how much they cost because they get sent to me by publishers. So I'm the last guy to ask, but faq.rahdo.com, answer number 5 will answer all your questions. I promise. Okay, and I'll come back to your personal question later when Jen is here. Lance, not Lance of Undead Viking, a different Lance, wonders, since he's managed a radio station for many years, hosted radio shows and podcasts. He even interviewed me for his podcast. Oh, okay. Bags and Boards, apparently. A couple years ago, after having my first child, born the year before, I started out not wanting to play games as often. About a year ago, I brought the show to an end, and since then, I've had a lot of trouble finding the desire to play board games. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Lance. It was a slow decline. I'm not sure what the problem was. Part of me thinks having to play certain games to review rather than just playing the games I wanted. I'm hoping after a long break, and especially after my son grows older, games will become part of our lives again. Feels silly to have such a huge collection of games that don't get played. I was curious if you ever experienced this. Since you review so many games and don't get to revisit your favorites very often, have you experienced losing the drive to play board games? Sorry, I got another drink of water there. No, I have not. I'm very happy to report. And in fact, in all honesty, I love Cults of the New. I love getting to experience new and different things. Rahdo Run Through, at this point anyway, has helped sustain my personal enthusiasm and excitement for playing board games because I love seeing all the new latest stuff. I think it affects maybe Jen more because Jen does, but Jen loves the new stuff too. She hates learning games. I actually enjoy learning games when the rule book is good, and so for me it's not really a problem. For you, I don't think. It's interesting. You said maybe when my boy grows older, he'll pull me back in. I think maybe there's not correlation, causation. I'm not quite sure. You just had a kid. That's got to radically destroy your life as you knew it. And I could certainly understand. I've heard so many times people say that, me and the wife or the husband, we used to love games, but after with the kids, now all we can do is maybe play some Lost Cities in the evening if we've got the strength for it. I think that you might want to look a little bit closer to home as to what it might not have been the job. It might not have been the show. It might have been something else. But like you said, maybe that same thing is what's going to pull you back. I hope so. But yeah, I have not experienced it. And it is something I worry about because I have definitely experienced it for video games. I have zero interest in playing video games. I can't imagine ever wanting to play another video game ever again. Maybe I will, but working in the video game industry for 20 years just destroyed, absolutely scorched any interest I have in playing video games. So far, Rahdo Runs Through hasn't done that yet. I'm happy to report. Let's see here. Next up, we have got a question from, it didn't say the name, and the name is not in the email. So we'll call you Mr. X, or we'll call you Miss X. We'll call you Mrs. X. Ms. X wonders, what modern board game designers do I consider to be the most diverse? Meaning they put out games with very few similarities. That's interesting. That's a really good question, Ms. X. Wow. The first name that pops into my head is David Turczi, who did Anachrony. everything David does is just radically different. He does not sit on his laurels at all. I would love to say Stefan Feld, but I can't. Stefan Feld, even though he always does new things in his games, the games always have kind of a consistent feel. That is not the case with David. Let's see. You asked for designers, I gave you one. David Turchi. I'm absolutely blown away. And there'd be other ones too, definitely. But I think David might have to take the crown, because he's been putting out, ever since he started a few years ago, like a couple games every year, and they've all been radically different. I'm going to give him the crown for that right now. Because, well, it's the first thing that popped in my head. Number 2, is there a game that you or Jen are horrible at, but you love anyway? No. I can't speak for Jen, but I'm sure Jen would say she doesn't know, because she tends not to remember games, because we never get to revisit them. And maybe that's a reflection of the fact that we don't get to revisit games to find out how horrible we are. But in all honesty, I don't really think I'm horrible. Let's see, no. There have been a few games that I know I've been bad at, and I've even talked about them. Lost Cities was one that I just really struggled for some reason. It's a particularly good example. And by the same token, Battle Line. But, let's see. And yeah, I didn't love it. I'll be honest, I didn't love it. If it's a game I'm really bad at, I'm probably not going to love. Because I didn't love Lost Cities, which is a bummer because Jen loves it and she's really good at it. So I suspect that would be a consistent. Because if I'm not feeling good about myself, if the game doesn't allow me to unlock the dopamine center of my brain by being able to pull off some cool combo that makes me think, oh gosh darn it, I'm good. Why am I playing this when I can play another game that does? So I think that answers that question. What are a few games you would like to see made into legacy style game? Every game that I love. Period. There is not a board game out there that you could not introduce interesting and compelling legacy gameplay. So look at my top 10 games of all time. All of them. I would love to see an Agricola legacy game where you play through, it's a legacy that, the farm gets passed down from generation to generation, and, new events change the way it grows and expands. And we started out playing with a board that was half the size of an Agricola board. And, halfway through the campaign, we're playing at a regular Agricola side. And by the time we're done, we're playing on a board that's 3 times the size because it's such a big, huge, campaign that we played through 20 generations of a medieval farm. My God, that would be amazing. How amazing would that be? Come on. What else is in my favorite games I love of all time? Any one of them could be converted into legacy. Well, Gloomhaven is kind of a legacy thing. Troyes, the same thing. The events that happen that we have to fight off, having long-term impacts that will change the starting state of the world the next time we play. Seeing entire sections of the world grow up. The way that you build the walls, just when you're playing with the expansion, seeing that happen over multiple sessions. Castles of Burgundy? Come on. All of them. Nations? All of them. All of them is my answer. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. Love legacy type stuff. Thank you, Ms. X, for your questions. Adam says, it's a long-time question giver, long-time listener. Thanks for the insights. You're welcome, Adam. Let's see. If we had $250 to restart a collection from scratch, what games would you get? What would you prioritize? You can use Amazon as your pricing baseline. Wow. Oh my gosh. Adam, I really like that. I like that as a top 10 topic. I am not going to answer that now. I'm going to put that on the list. Or, it's interesting. This month, Adam, my top 10, or my ramble I was going to do, was going to be like, a couple of years ago, I did top 10 must-have games, which is kind of like what you're talking about. In fact, while you're waiting, go do a search for Rahdo top 10 must-have. You'll get that list as of basically a couple of years ago. Although I didn't do it from a monetary point of view, but I think it would fit. What I was going to do this month was expand that to a top 50, because Jen and I have talked about when we move back overseas, we do not want to have to move 200 plus games again. And Jen says, yeah, when we move back to England, because that's where we're going to grow old and die, make no mistake. Although we'll see what the Brexiteers have to say about that. But provided they don't completely destroy the Emerald Isle, when we eventually do move back, Wait, is the Emerald Isle Ireland? I might have that wrong. But anyway, you know what I mean. Jen says, we're just going to take back 50 games. I'm like, oh, what would that be like if we moved back right now? That was my plan for my next ramble. I like yours, though. I might do that. At some point, I am going to do your $250 challenge. I think that is brilliant, Adam. Which means I want to give it some time. I'm not just going to do it off the top of my head. What are some of my most epic board gaming moments? Well, I just talked about that earlier, that I tend not to remember those. But I did do my top 10 most memorable board game moments, and you can do a search for that. What hidden gem do you think would be more popular in the mainstream board game world if it was deluxeified? Let's see. Well, first of all, I have to... What's a hidden gem? Well, hey, I just did top 10 underrated games, didn't I? Or, the top 10 things I disagree with Board Game Geek. Let's see. Let's look at that. And then look, that's an interesting idea. What would help deluxeify these things? Well, actually, since I was just talking about it, I want to say Ginkgopolis. Well, would a deluxeification really help that? That was cards and tiles and not really that much. Upgraded art on that? No, I don't think so. All right. Shoot. Alrighty. Let me look. Actually, I'll just do it on Board Game Geek. Let me go to my profile. Where are you, profile? Alrighty. Constantly switching between old and new pages on Board Game Geek drives me nuts. Nothing's ever in the same place. All right, there we go. Here's my profile. There is stats. Here is largest disparity in ratings. Alrighty, deluxeified. All right, but these, well, I'll go with it anyway. Peloponnese deserves so much more love, and the reality is it's ugly. And it's my... Oh, no, but yeah. Wait a minute, why was Peloponnese not in my top 10 games? I disagree with... Oh my gosh, why didn't it? Or maybe it did. It probably did. But Peloponnese, the art is not up to the quality of the gameplay. So Peloponnese is certainly a great candidate for deluxeification through really cool little pieces that keep track of all your resources, kind of like what they did for Barbarians, the invasion, and really awesome, sweet, gorgeous art that makes those disasters come to life and really make you feel them. I'm going to go with Peloponnese. Was that your question? Yes. Because it's in my top 10 and it doesn't get near the love it should. So Peloponnese is my answer. Right. New Concordia expansion. Does it interest you for the maps, or does the team concept turn you off as primary? I don't care about the team concept. I'd be curious to try it, but I don't really care about playing team play games. I'm interested in it mostly just for more maps, if I'm honest. And all right, then you had personal questions. So we're done with gamer questions from Adam. Then we move on to Nicholas. When you run through a game and you have to make decisions for Jen, are you influenced by how Jen plays, or do you make choices that help show all the options of the game? Do you try to role play Jen while playing the run through, or is it a little column A, a little column B? Yes, it is. Make no mistake, I am definitely influenced by Jen. I don't set out to try to replicate what she would play, but often, if I saw Jen do something really awesome that really just knocked my socks off, and she usually does, I will often, when I'm running through, try to replicate what she did. Although often, those kinds of really big moments won't happen until the end of the game, and I don't play to the end most of my run-throughs, but I will take inspiration from there. So it's not so much replicating the way Jen thinks. It's more literally duplicating what I saw her do or what I did. I'll try to. That's not always the case. Often I will, often I will look at what other videos are out there. John Gets Games or Slicker Drips or whatever. And I will try to make sure if they've already put a video out, I don't want to use the same characters, the same starting city, whatever it might be. I want to show different stuff. But if I'm the first out of the gate, these days, I didn't always do this, but these days, I will often choose the same character that I played, or the same nation that Jen played or whatever, so that I can replicate those, because those are really great opportunities to show the game. That's what I try to do. I just try to give the game a platform to put its best foot forward. And me stumbling around trying to deal with some new strategy that I've never seen before, that doesn't do the game any favors. So yeah, Kind of, sort of, but not in the same way you were thinking. I don't role play as her as a general rule. All right, I used to do that more, but I used to be a lot more cumbersome and not as smooth, I think, in my run-throughs. Next up, Alex wonders, how do you determine whether to run through or run down a game? That's a good point. Well, the main thing is, I haven't worked out a specific 100% foolproof guaranteed system, but a big part of it is the voting. The voters, which is to say the Patreon backers, of all the games I could film in a given month, they guaranteed choose 3 games, whether I think they should be a rundown or a run through or not. They choose 3 that will be run through. So that's the first level. And then after that, well, the rest of them, if there's something that has just came way, way down at the bottom of their list, even if I think it would be perfect as run-through candidate potential, I won't run through it. I'll run down it because, hey, they spoke very clearly. Like a good example of this is, well, I can't think of the name of it, but there's been several games where I would have thought they would have been great for run-throughs. But, the voters, month after month, just kept knocking it down. And so, okay, I'll run it down. So a big part of it is the audience. But if the audience doesn't come into it, then the other thing is I will try to decide, the fundamental definition of a rundown versus a run through is just how much time I spend showing the game. A rundown, I'm only going to show a couple of rounds. A run through, I'll show 2 or 3 times as much content. So the game will get to breathe and evolve more, and I'll have more opportunities to demonstrate core features. I don't have as much. In a rundown, I have to talk more about how things might evolve because I'm not going to show how they evolve. So, a game that doesn't need that will get more like a game that tends to repeat the same flow. A game where, hey, in a given couple of turns, if I feel like I can show off 80 or 90% of what that game is going to be about, probably because it's a shorter game, it's going to be a good candidate for a rundown. I'll admit, though, a bit selfishly, there's another good candidate for a rundown. If it's a game that's going to be very, very difficult for me to run through. Because I've been doing this for years now, it's still so hard. I have a very hard time running through games. The number of times I just give up in frustration and start over because it's just not going well. I'm screwing up. I'm not really putting the game forward. I'm spending too much time pausing and thinking. And I know you might think, oh my God, how bad is he? Because people often complain I pause and think through stuff too much as it is. But if it's a game that I know is going to be tough, I'm more inclined to do it a rundown just to save my sanity. Like a really good example of that was Barrage, which totally deserved a rundown to truly capture it, but I knew it would melt my brain if I did. Plus, it was on Kickstarter, and also, if it's a Kickstarter game at this point, I'm pretty much just going to do a rundown instead of a run-through, because Kickstarter run-throughs are so hard, because more often than not, the rules aren't done. I have a more tenuous grasp because, I'm playing with prototype pieces and stuff like that. So I'm much more happy to do Kickstarter games as run-throughs. Plus, the other problem with Kickstarter games, they have a concrete date that they must be ready for. And a run-through means I got to wait for Paulo. And sometimes it takes Paulo, days or, sometimes even weeks before he gets around to it because he's got, he's got his life he's got to take care of. Rundowns, I'm pretty confident because they're so short that they're not error prone. So I have not been having to do Klingon subtitles. So that's another reason Kickstarter games get rundowns, because I can more readily and safely guarantee that I'll get them done in time, although even that doesn't always happen. So there's a lot of things that go into it. But like I said, they're still fairly new. So that's just kind of a little bit of insight, I guess, into my thought process there. Right. And then personal question. So moving on to Gerald, who noticed that Trickerion looks great, and he's tempted to pick it up, but he's wondering, why did I only rate it a 7.8? Why is it not a 9, considering how much everybody loves it? I'll tell you, Gerald. I should erase that. I should not have it rated at all. Trickerion, I am going to remove my rating because I have not played the final version. Okay, Trickerion, unrated. Trickerion is a holdover. As time has gone on, I have evolved on how I rate my games. And I used to rate games based on having played the prototypes. I do not do that anymore. And so, Trickerion, I rated a 7.8 because I thought it was really cool, but from playing the prototype, I was unhappy with certain things. I know I talked about those in the run-through, in my final thoughts, because I know the developers went back to the drawing board and added stuff to the final game that kind of addressed my two-player concerns for the game. And I know I think they even named the little modules or the variants after me. So, yeah, I cannot let that. I mean, I need to play the full thing. To find out. So I don't rate that. I rate the prototype a 7.8 because there were some issues. Those issues may largely be gone. That's why I can't rate it, and I don't know. Maybe it is a 9. It certainly looks great, and I love the raw, unbridled ambition. It's just a ballsy design, that game. But I can't comment because I haven't had a chance to go back. Alrighty. That was Gerald's first question. Where are you, Outlook? Did I close Outlook? No, there it is. Alrighty. Second question. You've never won at Lost Cities? When Jen is much better at a game, does she give you tips on how to beat it? Or does she love winning too much? She does love winning. She will say, I don't care about winning or losing. For me, it's just fun. Yeah, it's easy for you to say that when you win 70% of the time. When she's not doing very well, she gets frustrated just like anybody else, and then suddenly she's not having fun. It just doesn't happen very much to her. Lost Cities was a very unique circumstance because it's so fast. And, this was an experience I had before I started doing Rahdo runs through, really. Yeah, there have been plenty of times when I am just floundering, in games, and I just stop and say, honey, could you just stop strategizing about your game for a little bit? Just turn off your brain about that. Here's all the cards I've got. Here's my thinking. Here's what I've been thinking about. Here's what I've been trying to do. Why am I losing so bad? Help me out here. And she will do that. And, and I'll do that for her too when she's frustrated. Although my problem is, like I said earlier, I'll do that for her when it wasn't requested. I spend more time looking and strategizing over her stuff than my own. It's just this weird quirk of how I think because I'm always, it's strange. But yeah, we'll certainly do that. I think what happens more often, if at the end of the game, after we're done, it was a blowout, and believe me, more often than not, if it's a blowout, I'm on the losing end of that blowout. We will stop, and I'll explain, well, this is what I was trying to do. Why did this not work? What do you think what should I have done? And we'll do that. And we'll do the same for her on the odd chance that, she just completely melts down, and I end up destroying her. So we do that a lot. It's a big part of evaluating the game. If it comes out and it was like a fairly close game, then we don't do it because we're just trying to get to the bottom of how does this game work as fast as we can and as few plays as we can, in all honesty. Do you remove ratings when you get rid of a game? Yes, I do, but I am rethinking that. I might stop doing that. The problem is, again, I've talked about this before. If it's a game I got rid of because we didn't like it, I want to rate games and follow the rating system on Boardgame Geek. But, as was mentioned earlier, it is fundamentally broken. It is impossible. They have set up, what is it called? A paradox? A misnomer? I can't think of the word, where these two things fundamentally cannot work. It's functionally broken because for every number, they have a description of what it's supposed to mean, but the descriptions at once tell, you're supposed to use the number to describe how likely you are to want to play it again, and also at the same time, how good a game it is. Objectively, how good is the design of the game. And the problem is, I can often find games that I think are brilliant, that I have zero interest in ever playing again. And so, it's impossible for me to rate it. I should rate it very low because I'll never play it again. I should rate it very high because I think it's brilliant. Therefore, I cannot rate it. It's broken. It's stupid. They could fix it. And Aldi, I love you. I wish you would fix it. But they're never going to. They're just gonna. Because it's a tricky thing. But anyway, yeah, I remove ratings when I get rid of a game, and instead I take the rating out and I put a description for why I removed it. And if you go to gone.rahdo.com, every game I've ever gotten rid of, I have a reason why. The thing that's a problem is I have now over 100 games that I got rid of, and the only reason is because of international move. And I have left those ratings in. because I didn't get rid of them for anything to do with the game. So I might do that going forward, or I might go back and start rating games I've gotten rid of. I don't know. It takes a lot of time to maintain that, because every time I do rate a new game, I'm rating it against other things, and that's prompting me to reevaluate those other games, and things shift around all the time. I don't know. I just don't know, Gerald. Why do you ask? Let's see. And then, alrighty. A question for the personal, which is a question for my mom. I'm glad I saw that. I'll have to go ask her. Right. And wait, Gerald is back with a second email. All right. Oh, no, he was just a follow-up. Despite table presence and with your Agricola fix in place. See, he's referring to the fact that they did Agricola stuff and all that. Right, anyway, so I still answered the question, I think. Will, moving on, says that his LAN party group has morphed into a tabletop group, and towards the end of their LAN, their online video game playing, they loved playing Brink. Deep, tactical, interesting. Thanks for helping make it. Will, thank you for sharing that. I love Brink so much. If there was any video game in the world I'd want to play, it's Brink. I still love playing it. It's the only reason I still own a PlayStation 3. I own a PlayStation 3, and I own one game, Brink. And every once in a while, probably a couple times a year, after Jen's gone to bed, I get it out and just play some more because I love it so much. But anyway, that's not what you're here for. All right, you and Jen don't have kids. Do you find yourself acting from time to time as a game sommelier, person who suggests wines to folks who like fine dining? If so, whether for kids or adults, do you have any tactics you use for helping figure out what to suggest? No, Will, I don't. I would suggest, again, going to faq.rahdo.com, number 5. That's why I do not. I hate making suggestions for people. It's a lot of hard work. I really got to spend, because my brain isn't wired to do it, so I have to do a lot of research. I used to do it, and it took up so much time, I just stopped, and I refer everybody to faq.rahdo.com, question number 5. Let me double check that was the correct one. Yes, question number 5. So I do not do it. I do not have any tips or tricks for it. Sorry, I cannot help you, man. I just cannot do it. Alrighty. And that was his question. All right, thanks for the shout out for Brink. Will, I love it. I love it. Okay, Tom says, game related, is it just me, or do you feel at all underwhelmed by this year's crop of Essen releases? Tom, it's just you. Oh, all right, apparently he's going to dig a little deeper. I think release fatigue is setting in after being in the hobby for 9 years or so. Maybe it's the sheer volume of the deluge. Maybe it's what seems to be the increasingly incremental evolution of game mechanisms and reuse of the same old tired settings and themes. I guess I'm looking for new and innovative experiences in the new releases, ones that demand the spot on my shelf. But I'm finding, with a couple of exceptions, that the vast majority of new releases are merely striving to replace fire old game designs. I guess I'm a bit disappointed. Bah, humbug! Hey, he didn't have a question in there, and I've already answered the question. I can move on. But I will talk about this a bit more. There's this weird thing that I've noticed amongst board game geeks. Now, I'm going to include Tom here, because if Tom is thinking about this much, he's a board game geek. There seems to be this attitude of, I got to play everything, I got to try everything, and then I'm disappointed because I can't do it, and I don't get it. Nobody says, I must see every movie that comes out every year. I must watch every TV show. I must read every book. I must read every comic book. I must play every video game that comes out on every platform. But for some reason, board game geeks seem to think, they bemoan the fact that, so many games are coming out and I have no way to deal with this deluge of games. So, don't try. Don't play every game that comes out. I certainly don't. I play a lot more games than your average geek, and I don't come close to playing, and I don't mind. Any game that I don't get a chance to play, with few exceptions, fine, no big deal. So, I don't know, Tom. I think I just disagree. I think maybe, for one, I don't think it's at all inappropriate that out of the 5,000 games that came out in a given year, which it seems to be that's where we're at now. We're at 4,000 or 5,000 new games a year that get published. That of those, maybe 100 are really special. I don't think that's a problem at all, because I think that's true for, those same kind of ratios are true for movies or books or video games or all the rest of it. It's fine that the vast majority don't really stand out in a truly amazing way. as far as I'm concerned, all they've got to do is be good. There is nothing wrong with incremental evolution of games, provided they're fun, because every one of those games is going to be somebody's first new game, is going to be their gateway or their gateway plus from their original gateway. And hey, the more games there are, the more chances there are for more people to find the game that's right for them. And I think it can be frustrating to a board game geek if they have that attitude of, I gotta play everything, I've got to experience everything, I've gotta savor every new awesome game experience that comes out. Well, you might find yourself frustrated if you set out to do that, and you shouldn't have to. I would hope, as I always say, people ignore my final thoughts, and you watch the run through and you decide for yourself. Just from, it's like I sat down and played 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 minutes of that game. I know what's there. I know if it's worth trying or not. Okay, I'll pass. There wasn't enough that grabbed me. Hey, there are so many people making videos now, not just me. You should be able to make those determinations. So get off the, the hype train. Wait until, more is known about the games. And be a bit more selective. And I think you'll find there are plenty of things. Me personally, I thought this year's crop of Essen games was fantastic. If I were to go to podcast.rahdo.com, or just podcast, let's see here. What did I list in my things I was super excited about for Essen? Well, let's see. I knew a lot of them were good because I'd already played them. All right, my top 10. Teotihuacan is awesome. And I don't know about Carpe Diem. Coimbra, oh man. Castles of Man King Ludwig, or Between Two Castles, that was awesome. Gugong was amazing. And Forum Trajanum was fantastic. I cannot wait for the new Pandemic Fall of Rome, which sounds like it's probably the most significant tweak to Pandemic rules yet. There are so many amazing games. Detective Modern Crime, that is fantastic with the digital implementation there. Oh man, I'm sorry you feel that way, man. There are so many cool, awesome games coming out. And great expansions too. Oh, it's a great time to be alive. But you know what? Hey, I just try to find the good stuff, I guess. Alrighty. Do you find yourself keeping more, the same, or fewer of the new games you play these days? More and more and more. Here's a thought exercise. Let's go back to ranked.rahdo.com. I was doing this not too long ago. Ranked.rahdo.com. And, alrighty, it's coming up here. Control F, parenthesis, 2017. I have kept 44 games from 2017, although some of them I haven't played yet. So let's say probably 30-some games from 2017 I'm going to end up keeping. This is the first 100 games, right? Yeah. It goes like 250, I think. So of my top 250 games, somewhere around 30 of them are from 2017. Let's look at 16. 30 of them. And I've played almost all of them. 2015, 40 of them. Wow. 2015, a very good year. 2014, 28 of them. 2013, 28. Oh my gosh, 2014, 2013, both games, 28 games I've decided to hold on to. 2012, 21 games. 2011, 17 games. 2010, 12 games. 2009, 12 games. 2008, 5 games, 2007, 7 games, 2006, 2 games, 2005, 4, 2000. Okay, and they just drop down into single digits from there on. To me, this is what I was talking about earlier. It is a reflection of how games are getting better. Board game publishers are getting better at making better games. I'm sorry, what was your question? I just like doing that. By the way, Jen just walked in. Honey Pie, I'm not quite to the personals yet.
That's okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Alrighty. That didn't answer your question. To do fewer and fewer of the new games? No, I'm keeping more and more of the new games because they are better and better than the old games. I'm getting rid of more and more old games because new games that have iterated and come up with cool new things replace the old games that don't do it as well because creative people build upon what other people have done. That is the nature of all creative endeavors. Alrighty.
Standing on the shoulders of giants.
Thank you, honey. Yes. Do you try to keep a one-in, one-out policy? No. But before, I kind of roughly, I try to keep in Malta, I had bigger shelves, and I cannot keep more games than what fit on the shelves. The shelves I've got here, these Calyxes, they don't hold as much. So I'm in the process of rethinking my policy. It might be the topic of my next ramble for folks who back the show. Let's see. How do you decide when you're going to add a game to your collection? Is it simply that you want to play it against? It is. The way I rank them and the way I decide what stays and what goes always comes down to, if I had to pick between this game and this game, which would I play more? Okay, between this game and this game, which would I play more? And so it's just a personal reflection. Now, that's an immaterial question because I never get to play any of these things again, or with very few exceptions. So, c'est la vie. But, I'd still rank it. Uh-oh, Jen stepped on the power cord. She's turned off the screen. I've lost power. I can't see what you're... Oh, it's back now. Alrighty. The dangers of getting extension cords from the Goodwill. Not all of them are... some of them are real flaky. If this house ends up burning down, folks, you'll know why. Let's see. And, right, okay, that was it for Tom's gaming-related questions. And Jen has come in. Hi, Honey Pie, is there something you want?
No, I was just coming to say hi because I finally got my studio tidied up.
All right, and so there's still a lot more to tidy, folks. I told folks up front that you're having to get ready for your folks tomorrow, so that's why you didn't join us for this.
Yes.
I think, it felt like a lifetime ago that I started recording. Oh my God, I'm an hour and 8 minutes nonstop. Alrighty.
Okay, so I'll come back in a few minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Aaron. I'm running out of water, Aaron.
Do you want me to get you some water?
Please, thank you. Thanks, Honey Pie.
Please,
Alrighty.
Thank you, as someone might say.
Let's see. Aaron.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Someone might say please and thank you.
Yes.
A lot of people would say that.
No, but they say it all together.
I don't know.
Ron.
Oh, my brother-in-law, Ron.
No,
yeah.
No.
Who?
The show that we just watched that your mom loves.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Leslie.
Please and thank.
Nope.
Yes, Ron Swanson.
Ron Swanson. I knew it was
Yes, Ron Swanson does say please and thank you. It's true.
Immediately.
All right, and yes. Parks and Rec had a big impact in this house, folks. There was much binging. Alrighty. This is a quote from the comment section of the Claustrophobia 1643 Kickstarter. I was rather baffled by this backer's point of view, but he or she provides an interesting take on Kickstarter as a whole. What do you make of it? He seems to suggest that Kickstarter is an experience in and of itself, and campaigns should be run with that experience in mind. Here's the quote. Oh my gosh, this is a long quote. Fortunately, he bolded it. This is possibly the most boring Kickstarter I've ever been involved in. Beyond the initial adrenaline rush of launch, and will I be one of the first 10,000, this quickly faded as copies didn't fly off the shelf so quickly that only the poised lightning fast... Right. I much prefer a traditional bottle where there's excitement about what will be unlocked. Right, because I think the claustrophobia thing is they didn't do stretch goals or something like that. I think I've heard about this. And they've just said, hey, look, we're selling 10,000 games, and after that, it's gone. So come and get them. We're just here to sell the game. And I prefer the traditional model with the excitement about what will be unlocked and weighing up whether or not it is a good deal, the duck and weave of comments and responses from the creator and to the backer demands feedback. It all makes for an exciting experience that is part of the price of entry. This seems to be a very lackluster experience, just another way to shop rather than, I suppose. I guess I can see that. I know, man, some people get so wrapped up in Kickstarter because they feel like that they are an investor and they want their voice heard, and they've taken on ownership of the game in some sense. And so, they get so much more passionate they do. And that's great. Obviously, that is leveraged to great effect by Kickstarter runners that, if they can really get the community involved so the community becomes evangelists to bring more people in so they can become a bigger success. Yeah, I'm sure that's part of the DNA of Kickstarter. And yeah, there have been a few games that just completely say, no, look, we're just here so you can pre-order this game. That's it. And so what was, I would say, yes, that is true. Aaron's question is, what do I make of this? I make of it that this is true. And different people are turned on by different things. I don't really back very many Kickstarters anymore. I do occasionally for some expansions. It's interesting. Most of the time when I back a Kickstarter, it's so that I don't have to do a video of it. Because I feel like if I bought it myself, I'm not obligated to. Whereas if a publisher sent it to me, I really do have to higher prioritize it. Sorry, that's totally as an aside. But yeah, I don't get into it at all. I don't follow the updates and wait. I can't wait till we crack the next thing. I just buy it. To me, Kickstarter is as a stand-in for Amazon or Cool Stuff Inc. or the friendly local game store. So I'm not looking for anything, but I know some people do. And I mean, you can see that from the passion and the drama. Oh, so much drama. Personally, I kind of would like a little bit less drama myself. It's just a thing, folks. There's no reason to get so worked up over things. They're just things. You already have a lifetime's worth of things. Chances are, if you're backing the latest hotness on Kickstarter, if you're a person who's doing that, you already have a lifetime worth of games already. You don't need it, whatever it is. Doesn't matter how much you think you do. Let's calm down a little bit. Let's stop chasing that dragon. But, hey, who am I to begrudge anybody what makes them happy? And whoever this person was who posted on Claustrophobia, I get it. If you're not having fun, well, that's too bad. And yeah, it's a shame that Monolith could have given you a more fun time. They chose not to, and so they won't get your business, but it's not the end of the world. There will be plenty more fish in the sea. Was it Monolith? Or is it Ares? I think it's Monolith. Anyway, sorry. I guess that's what I make of it. Yeah, that's it. That's an interesting perspective. I totally see that. I do not share that perspective. In much the same way, I do not share the same perspective that many, many Americans do about professional American football, or cars, or fishing, or so many other things in life, where it's just, yeah, different strokes for different folks. I get it. Intellectually, I just don't share that worldview. Right. Okay. Although, to be fair, I can in large part afford not to share that worldview, because 95% of all the games I get were free. Although they're not free, I work hard for those games. Alrighty, Jarrett says, I mentioned that Jen doesn't like games with repetitious little turns. What are your favorite big turn games besides Castle of Burgundy or Trajan? The answer to that would be do a search for Rahdo, Jen, top 10. You'll actually get her top 27. Chances are those are all big turn games. That's a tough one. Since we tend to like, small turn, what we just played one the other day that was a small turn game. And she said, wow, this is really good. I hate this. What was it? What was it? Now, that's driving me nuts. What did we play? We played Master Plan. Oh, now I got to look it up. Let's see here. I should have this on my list of stuff because we were playing it because I know I got to film it. So what was it? It was, Miner's Lagoon. Very neat little twist on standard worker placement. Some people would say it's a boring because it's just an evolution as opposed to a revolution. I say, pish posh. Evolution is awesome. If you're a true fan, you should be excited about evolution if you're a fan of design like I am. But anyway, that was a perfect example. It was just driving Jen nuts. You want to do big turns, but the whole game is designed to make, because it has 15 rounds, you make 15 little turns instead of 5 big turns. I'm sorry, man. I'm not going to do a full list right now. But again, check out Jen's list. If she loves it, it's because it was a big turn game. What game features my favorite individual player board? Individual player boards. Art, organization, usefulness, etc. You know what I would suggest? Go look up my recent top 10 board games part 1, where I talked about form. I believe I probably broached that topic. Or the part 2, function. Function was part 1. Form was part 2. Part 2 was how pretty are they. Part 1 was how great are they. I probably covered that in those two things. Sci-fi themed games are big non-starter for you. Oh, that's okay. However, what sci-fi themed games should I try and or enjoy despite the theme? Perhaps they're just that good. Hey, you know what? You're in luck. I recently did a top 10 sci-fi games. I don't remember what it was, but I would suggest my number 1. Although there'd be 9 others I might recommend. There you go, Jarrett. Bran has a question about hate drafting. Allow me to apologize in advance for... Right, okay. Most of my games are 2-player with my wife. We're relatively new to the hobby, only 3 years in. We tend to enjoy Euro-style games, mostly. Discovered Feld, became a big fan. Thanks to all the great tips, by the way. Do not like direct player conflict. Okay, you're a brand after my own heart. Question is this. I tend to grumble. I tend to grumble a lot when, for instance, in Castle Burgundy, my wife grabs a tile that she doesn't need just to prevent me from doing the thing I was going for. I find it less frustrating in games like Deus or Imperial Settlers, where the game is dictating you attack or hinder another player. Don't get me wrong, we love Castles of Burgundy. We play it a lot. It's probably our favorite. I kind of like that agony frustration, but I experience it a lot more frustrating as a way more aggressive move when someone deliberately makes a choice that denies you something that they don't need versus stealing some cash for victory points. I wonder what your thoughts are on the subject. That is great, Bran. No need to apologize. I very easily understood your English. It was near perfect. He apologized for that front. I skip a lot of this stuff. I'm just trying to break it down. Although first I'm going to drink water. So hate drafting is really interesting. Because yeah, I mean, it is a way. It can certainly be super duper aggressive, and yet there's a lot of games, Jen, I love with hate drafting, and it's something we take into account. However, gathering my thoughts. However, I'm trying to think of, okay, Seven Wonders is a great example of hate drafting. I mean, it's designed to. No, it's not. It's not. Seven Wonders is a great example of hate drafting that we very much appreciate. And I have to admit, man, I don't think I'd want to play your wife at Castles of Burgundy. If she is going out of her way to get tiles for the sole reason to deny you because you need that last animal or whatever. And then she's like, oh, and I have no animals whatsoever. I literally have none, but I'll go ahead and take this just so you can't get it. Oh, your wife's a mean lady, Bran, and I apologize. That is not how we would handle it. Here's how we would approach a similar circumstance. If Jen is going heavily into animals, and I'm not, for whatever reason, it just hasn't worked out that way. But you know, the situation comes up, and we roll those dice, and we can look ahead and see, oh wow, yeah, it'd be perfect for me to get that, and that would deny Jen, you know, a huge amount of points. First of all, I would not be inclined to do that because denying Jen those, I don't know, 12 points or whatever by preventing her from getting that last piece of the puzzle she needs is the exact same thing as me making 12 points by pursuing whatever my preferred strategy was. But it has the unfortunate side effect of kind of ruining her day. And she's a big girl. She's fine. She say, yes, of course, take it. I mean, we're all playing to win. You know, don't kid glove it. But by the same token, it's still, there's no way to avoid the fact that it is going to be psychologically distressing. That if that's something she's worked on so hard for so long, and it was going to be so exciting to, you know, to finish it, to get that sense of completion, I don't want to rob her of that just so that I can indirectly score 12 points by preventing her from scoring 12 points. So if there is some other means that, okay, I have to take this animal thing, which will give me a couple of points and prevent you from getting 12 points, so I could do that. But if there's some other thing I can do to take 10 points, I'll do the other thing, because it all comes out in the wash. But I can either get 10 points by building up what I'm trying to do or by destroying what you're trying to do. And if I can get the 10 points either way, I'm not going to destroy what you're trying to do, Bran, because there's no reason to do it if you run the numbers. That's how Jen and I do it. Now, a game that has hate drafting that we fundamentally find distasteful would be a situation where, in this same example, we find ourselves often put into a situation where, yes, I could prevent you from getting 12 points, and there's nothing I can do that would be comparable to that. That's positive on my behalf. There's literally nothing that can be done. There's clearly no other choice other than to stomp on your castle and destroy it. If a game's design is built that way, we're going to walk away. Even if it only makes us do it once in the entire game, i.e. Scythe, i.e. Deus, we walk away because we'll go play a game that doesn't make us do that. So we look for games that have enough breadth and depth that we do not find ourselves forced into that situation by the circumstances of the game. Now, that said, it could still happen sometimes. We don't find it happens very often in Burgundy because, again, there's so much to do. And your wife should be able to find something to score an equal number of points as she was denying you. And I just think she's not looking hard enough, Bran. Maybe you could point that out to her. Hey, you could score the 10 points over here and then not ruin my day. Just a thought. And if she cackles with glee when she does it, well, you might have a problem there. Anyway, but there's more, I think, about hate drafting too. We love Seven Wonders. And Seven Wonders, well, no, I was going to say Seven Wonders is a game where we will very directly hate draft. Oh, I can see you really need, this is the last piece you need to finish that wonder that you've been working on for the whole game. I can't do it. I'm going to have to turn this into $3. Now, here's the thing. In that circumstance, we don't mind hate drafting in a situation where, oh, you're taking the thing that I needed so desperately, so badly, the entire game, you're really going to take it? There is no hard feelings. It's totally fine with us if the taker needs it as much as the takee. If in Agricola, we both happen to pursue, we both need sheep, and Jen needs it more than I do, Jen is not going to be too terribly bothered if I took the sheep. Because I needed it badly, she needed it super badly. Hey, in Seven Wonders, oh, you really needed this thing? I need the $3 badly. I'm going to trash it. No hard feelings. Hard feelings when, oh yeah, I don't need that money at all. Or the worst example in the universe. Yeah, I'm going to get those sheep and literally let them go because I don't have fences and I don't have a stove, so I can't convert them to food. I'm just keeping you from having them. That is the biggest dick move in all of Euro board gamedom, and we would never do it. And fortunately, Agricola is a game where I never have to do it because there's always something I could be doing that is better. Now, that's not always true. There are going to be some circumstances where, even in Agricola or Castles of Burgundy or Seven Wonders, well, you can't do this because it's hidden hands. But in games where there's public information where, oh my gosh, there is nothing I can do. Of course I should take that. Here's what I do under those circumstances. I do this all the time with Jen. She doesn't do it as much with me, but she does some. And again, she's getting better. I'm rubbing off on her. If I see that last animal that, that my opponent, that Jen needs to do it, and Jen has an opportunity to take it, and she doesn't because she thinks, oh, I can wait on that. I got to do this other thing. I will stop her and say, honey, whoa. You might want to rethink that move. Because if you leave that there for me, I have no choice but to take it. The game has put me in a situation where I must take it. And I know you're thinking, oh, I can put it off. But I'm asking you to reconsider that. Because I don't want to destroy your sandcastle, but I will if you don't take that. Are you really sure you want to do that? Because I'm telling you, if you do, this is what I'm going to do. And it's going to ruin your day. And she'll say, oh, thanks for letting me know. Okay, I'll worry about this other thing later. That's how we approach this situation, Brand. It's what makes us different than probably 99% of all other gamers out there. That we will put aside our desire to win, because for us, it's more important. Our stronger desire than winning is our desire that our gaming partner has as much fun as we're having. And that's why we don't like games with a lot of take that. It's not so much that we don't like games. We play Agricola. We love games that beat us up, but we do not like denying each other joy. And if a game puts us in a situation where we have to do that and we have no way around it, that's a game we will never play again. We will not forgive it for that. Nothing wrong with it. I totally get that a lot of people love it, but we don't. And that's the way we look at it. And thanks for the question, Bran. Okay, Steve. Oh, Steve, you got 4 questions. Alrighty. But you're the end of the line. Alright, so do you ever send your run-throughs to publishers or designers to check for rules goofs before sending them to Paulo? Yes. Pretty much almost every single Kickstarter. As soon as it's done, because usually it's done a few days before the campaign or even a few weeks before the campaign, and I'll say, hey guys, here's the links. If you notice any goofs, could you let me know so we can get it marked up? I don't do that so much with commercial games, because usually I don't have any kind of working relationship with the, usually if it's a game from Asmodee or Cosmos or What's Your Game, chances are the emails I'm sending back and forth is with a producer or their marketing person, somebody who really doesn't have that much to do with the making of the game. If I'm working with a Kickstarter game producer, chances are they are very heavily involved with the game. So I'll say, hey, could you check this out? If you find any goofs, it'll just make it easier for us to spot check. But some PR rep at Asmodee, I'm not going to ask them to do that because they're not, they're not going to do it. And very rarely am I ever directly interacting with the designer of the game. Whereas, I mean, that's one of the things I love about working on Kickstarter games. I'm working, I'm communicating, I'm involved with the people who are on the ground making the game. And as a former designer myself, I just love that energy. I love being involved like that. So I'll always do that with that. Occasionally, I'll do that with bigger games. Like I might do it with the Stonemeyer game, although probably not. But anyway, it's just because I know Jamie. He's the one I'm working with, and he's very closely involved with it. So sometimes, but usually I don't do it unless it's a Kickstarter game. But here's the thing. It is almost never worth doing because 9 times out of 10, the publisher, designer, producer, whoever it is, they'll watch the video and they won't catch 1/10 of my goofs. Because the vast majority of people who watch my videos don't notice the goofs. Paulo is a very special individual. There's something about his brain that lets him catch them without error, without missing, even though often he doesn't even know how the game plays. He hasn't read the rules. He's just going based on instinct. And he just, he's got a sixth sense for this. Publishers often miss it, and it drives Paulo nuts. When I say, hey, okay, here's like the couple of things that the publishers mentioned, and then Paulo goes through and he notices like 10 things I screwed up. So it's weird. It's just funny. So you add then, have you ever been tempted to re-record the run-through if you make too many mistakes? Yes, that happens all the time. That happens probably at least one, I would say, out of every 5 run-throughs. After Paulo gets done with it, I just say, okay, fine, I'm just going to redo the whole thing. Usually it's not for dumb little mistakes, though. All the little mistakes of, I took 2 turns in a row and I forgot Jen's turn, or, I forgot to pay the taxes I owe, or whatever. I'm never going to bother refilming for that because it doesn't matter. It's just bookkeeping. But if there was a mistake I made that's like a fundamental rules goof that paints the wrong picture of the game and might give you the wrong feeling for what the game is really like, yeah, I'll redo the run through, no questions asked. I mean, like I said, that probably happens 1 out of every 5, 1 out of every 6. And it's a royal pain in the ass. Sometimes it's even happened twice. All right, like I said, it's hard. This is really, really hard. And I make it so hard on myself because I film in one take. If I didn't do that, if I filmed like Slicker Drips or MeWe or John Gets Games and just filmed in little snippets and, took 5 minutes between each move to look up the rules and make sure I was doing everything right. And even still, guys who do that, Rodney Smith makes goofs in his videos all the time. And he's got all the time in the world to make sure, but he still releases. So me playing by the seat of my pants, trying to remember the rules of this game when I played 10 different games for the first time this week, yeah, I'm going to make a few more goofs than the average bear. Plus, I think I'm a bit kind of scatterbrained anyway. So yeah, I re-record all the time. Following from the above, have you ever re-recorded a run-through because you subsequently realized you made so many goofs? Oh, yes, many times. Do you get the impression that Spiel wasn't so spectacular in terms of quality with newly released games? Having been for the last 2 years, I was very happy with the quality of games released. I talked about this earlier. No. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to play a lot of them, but from what I have played, it's been fantastic. Righty. Is your new recording studio set up exactly as you would like? Is a finished article, or is there more work to be done? Yeah, what do I want to do? Well, like I said, all the when we moved from Malta to America, we lost, I think, probably 7% of all our personal belongings because 10 big boxes just disappeared somewhere between Malta and here, and they were lost. And so that was really crushing, really demoralizing. One of those boxes was a box of electronic gear I've collected over 20 years. And, it's like that box of stuff you never need until you need it. And then it's all gone. And when I need all of that stuff here. So Radio Shack doesn't exist anymore as near as I can tell. Maybe it does. But I've been picking up a lot of pieces or a lot of replacement stuff at Goodwills and Salvation Armies on the cheap. Because I'm the cheapest guy you'll ever meet. I'm a cheapy peepee. And so some of them have been bad, so so there's that. Like I said, Jen turned off the monitor without meaning to, so I couldn't see what the questions were. But the shelves, these Calic shelves, do not hold as much as the Billy book case I have. So I've been thinking about getting a third Calix. I don't want to because they're expensive, but I don't want to start having to jettison more games because these shelves are smaller. So I've been thinking about doing that. And if I did that, that means I could take a lot of these sound panels off of that wall and spread them out to try to muffle the sound and get rid of some of the echo that is in my final thoughts still. So I've been thinking about doing that. Let's see, what else? Oh, the table we got. Unfortunately, we got it super cheap, or maybe this one was free. I don't remember. But we lost the bolts, so the tabletop is not solid anymore. So it shifts around. I need to get some bolts to put this table together. Oh, I really dislike. I like my lighting, but I hate how much glare it puts in the dynamic camera videos I do. So I have a full table mat coming. Actually, I'm going to be covering it for a Kickstarter that's coming up. We're getting a couple different ones, and so I'm really looking forward to that. I know a lot of people really like the black table, but and I do too. I think it looks really nice and kind of chic and classic, but I have got to get this glare under control. So that's coming. I am thinking about getting a few more lights to put. I mean, the overhead lights in this room have no light bulbs. All the lighting is from these 2 box lights that I got. And I'm thinking about getting a few light bulbs that match the same color so that I can have a little bit more down light. Because right now I'm casting very sharp shadows, and I'd like them to be a little bit weakened by having some more down light, so I'd like to do that. I'm pretty happy with the sound overall. I've got 2 boom mics. Or not boom mics, shotgun mics overhead. One's plugged into my static cam. One is via a long cable plugged into my Final Thoughts cam. I'm thinking I'm done with it. I would like to do more, but that's why I'd like to move the sound panels around a little bit more to cover the doors. I think they're still making a lot of echo. But still, I mean, it's something most people don't even notice, so I shouldn't even worry about it. I know that. And I think that's about it. I think I'm pretty close to done otherwise. I bought some really cheap PC speakers the other day off of Amazon for like $12 because I was just tired of editing with headphones. Oh, I'd like to get a throw rug because if you were to ever come in here, you'd be in danger of breaking your neck when you trip and fall over the 5,000 cables. They're just strewn everywhere. And I'd like to just get a throw rug and put them all under that, just out of sight, out of mind. And also the place is a mess because I've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes of games I have not unpacked because there's not enough room on these Calyx shelves. So that gets back to maybe getting another shelf. That's about it, though. I think, otherwise, I'm pretty happy. Pretty happy. And that was Steve's last question. Oh my gosh, folks. We're caught up with the the show-related Q&A, but now I gotta go take a break. Maybe have some ice cream because my throat's on fire. And then I'll come back with Jen to answer your personal Q's and A's right after this. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Actually, it's the next day because while I went to grab Jen, we realized, it's too late, too much. Let's just sit down and watch some TV. And we tried Firefly, which didn't work out as well as I would have hoped. They are on kind of a Castle and Rookie kick, so I thought they'd appreciate some more Nathan Fillion, but it didn't fly. I could not take the sky from them, or vice versa.
I did think it was a very pretty effect when Firefly took off, though, and when its warp drive.
That is more positive than she was last night.
Yeah, it was very pretty.
Seeing as how she literally fell asleep during the bank heist. But anyway, or not the bank heist, the train heist. So, we are here this morning, and we're going to try and get through these ASAP, because we've still got some cleaning up to do to get ready for her folks who are getting here this evening. So, without any further ado, Jack wonders, now that we've moved back to the States, do we have a flock of chickens yet?
No.
Is it more challenging to raise chickens here? Thinking about how you came to start raising chickens, did you make your playthrough of peak oil more I'll mention the peak oil thing. I didn't do a video for that one. Sorry to say. That one is not coming anytime soon. I looked at it, and I don't remember what it was. That there was something about the game when I read the rules that made me think, I think it was that it wasn't going to be a particularly strong fit for 2 players, and so I passed on covering it. But anyway, Honey Pie, chickens.
Chickens. I would love to have some chickens. I found a nearby person who has chickens, who spoils his chickens. And so we are happily supporting them at the moment. There's just so much going on with moving in and everything and also when we bought here, we were told that the CCNRs of our community would not allow for chickens, but we have since found out that actually maybe they would. So I'm going to pursue it in the spring.
Well, it's not that they maybe would. It's that the place we're at is in the middle of some, I don't know, legal issues. And
Some turmoil.
Yeah, some turmoil. And one of the things they had to do was strike from the record the current CCNRs.
Yeah, they've reverted back to like 1993 CCNRs, which are next to nothing.
Which was...
Be a nice person. Be a good neighbor.
Yeah, if even that.
Yeah.
So at the moment, it's the wild, wild west around here.
There could be chickens galore.
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out. We don't want to really abuse the system, though. Priscilla. Oh no. Was there anything more?
There was
is it more challenging to raise chickens here?
I wouldn't. No, it's going to be easier to raise chickens
everything
here.
is easy to do in America.
In fact, I could get chicks sent to me in the mail. And
what?
Yeah. So I could have a baby flock sent to me in the mail, and they could be mixed breeds. And sorry, I keep looking at him, and he keeps pointing at the microphone. You need to go sit over there. So I can look at you and be in the microphone. Anyway, so I'm not sure yet. I mean, if I was going to get chicks, now would actually be a good time to get chicks because they take is it 4 months, I think, before they're ready to lay? Maybe 5 months. So right now would be great. We could have chicks and we could have young chickens, and then eventually in springtime they'd be pullets and they'd start laying. So
have you seen what type of container they're sent in though? How does that work?
Apparently, see, when chickens when they hatch, because they eat their the yolk.
I'm saying you're having a hard time looking at the mic, so just look at yourself.
Oh, I don't want to look at myself.
Oh.
Okay, so anyway, maybe you could put a picture of you. There you go. Yeah. Now I can look at him.
Look at me.
Okay. Anyway, apparently when they hatch, they eat the yolk, and that gives them like 2 days worth of nourishment. And so hatcheries can send out baby chicks next day because they have enough nourishment in their little tummies.
Wow.
Amazing, huh?
So it's not same day, it's next day. It's overnight express kind of thing?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I've never done it. And we've never had chicks, actually. So we've always just bought pullets, which is hens that are about ready to lay. They're within a couple weeks of laying. So that could be a lot of fun. That would be a lot of fun. And actually, my first flock, I bought a chicken from here and a chicken from there and a couple from here and there. And anyway, I had this really mixed flock. And since they hadn't all grown up together, they all were very mean to each other as they figured out the pecking order, which was quite distressing to watch. I mean, eventually it was really sad. So I would like to instead, when I start my next flock, if I'm going to do a mixed flock, get them all from, say, a hatchery so that they've grown up and they'll figure out their pecking order as they're tiny little things, and it won't be quite as velociraptor-ish.
See, you just made it sound like it's a lot more complicated. But it was much easier before just to go down to the local pet and feed store and get a bunch of chickens in burlap bags out of the back of a truck.
God, that was Malta.
Yeah.
They actually, they didn't even put them in burlap bags. They put them in old paper feed bags. And you would just go and pick them up, and they'd have 2 or 3 chickens in each feed bag. And okay, they poked a hole or two into the bag so they could breathe. But I'm just thinking, these poor chickens. It was just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Malta, though. They have a little bit of a different standard of animal welfare there.
Indeed. Okie doke. Priscilla wants to know, did we develop a British accent while in England?
I don't think so.
No, not really. We were there for a long time. I don't think I picked up anything. Jen did pick up one mannerism, which I actually, thinking about now, I have not heard her say for years, but she used to say it all the time.
Would that be tis?
No. I don't know that I noticed that. You would say at all instead of at all.
Ah.
It's no problem at all. And it always sounded very fake to me every time she did it. And she said she did not recognize she was doing it. In fact, she apparently doesn't even remember that she did it.
Remember.
And I kept pointing it out to her, honey, you're not British. Stop trying to pretend you're British. And she said, I have no idea what you're talking about at all.
Well, I also did y'all. So it probably just rolled in from my Texas y'all to tall.
That was your Texas drawl, y'all.
My doll.
Which I think you do still use, the y'all.
I do. Y'all's great. It's very inclusive.
Alrighty. Dylan wants to know, how did the nickname Duck come about?
Oh, surely we've told this story.
Surely.
Well, you go ahead. I tell you.
Well, it's pretty simple. We met on the University of Washington campus in Seattle. We started out as friends and started dating and stuff like that. But when we were walking from one class to another, there were a lot of low-hanging trees.
branches. The trees don't hang low.
The low-hanging branches. And they were low-hanging enough that I would have to duck. And Jen, thinking that she was so clever, every once in a while would just shout out, "Duck!" when we were approaching one.
Because I'm quite short, and I don't have to worry about it.
And she thought it was adorable that I was very tall and had to duck under the trees. And one time, after the millionth time she made her little joke, I said, "Please, just call me Richard."
And we'd actually been struggling because I didn't want to call him Richard. Richard is too kind of King Richard-y formal stuff. And of course, I wasn't going to call him Dick. And he didn't want to be called Rick.
I did not care for Rick.
So I was like just kind of pointing at him and saying, "Hey, you." So Duck actually worked out beautifully.
Yep. Alicia wonders that after having lived overseas for so long, what were you happy to return to when you made it back to the U.S.? And what were you unhappy to return to other than the political situation?
Yes.
Alicia doesn't want to hear any politics.
That's okay. I don't want to talk about politics. Well, I mean, obviously, the ease of getting anything you want within a day or two from Amazon is incredible. And
being able to return it if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
I know.
That is unthinkable.
I mean, we moved to England 15 years ago, and I had such a struggle finding stuff. I mean, at least there was eBay. I could kind of find stuff via eBay. Then we moved to Malta, and they didn't even have eBay on Malta. They had something called FaceBay, which I eventually found, which was sort of like people selling used stuff on Facebook.
Yeah, it's basically a Facebook version of Craigslist for Maltese people.
Yeah, there you go.
Because Craigslist is not in Malta.
And neither is eBay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've gone progressively to countries that it's harder and harder to find stuff. So it's a delight to be back in the States and just be able to find anything you want, anytime you want. And go into stores that are open, after 6 or between 12 and 2. That's always handy.
That the
while
whole
you're
place
out
doesn't close down.
Yeah.
That they realize that consumers work during the weekend, maybe need to go somewhere on the weekend to buy things.
Yeah. Well, in Malta, a lot of shops closed for the lunch break.
Yeah.
So if you were just out and about and they were closed, then you had to come back later. So I think that's probably the main thing. I mean, that is a
consumer convenience.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many things. Like the way we bought our car using tread.com.
Yeah.
That was ridiculously simple and easy.
Yep.
I mean, nothing like that exists.
Yeah, we bought our car sight unseen from England, and we had a guy, one of those professional car guys, go and look at it and listen to it and run computer diagnostics on it and take it for a test drive. I mean, it's not like we know really anything about cars. So paying, what was it, $150 or something to this guy to go and check this car out and tell us, yeah, it's great. Actually, this is really good. It's, looked at its history and all that stuff. He just knew to look at a bunch of stuff we would never have thought to, especially with an electric car. So, yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah.
And then we had a car. Unfortunately, the seller did kind of screw up the day that we arrived in the country because we were supposed to meet directly from the airport. And he, for some reason, decided to go to Linwood for dinner with his girlfriend or something. So we had to kind of fiddle fart around for, was it 3 hours until he could get back? Because, of course, it was during rush hour traffic time.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we were let down that way. But that wasn't the fault of the internet.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think it was 150. I thought they were like 100 or maybe even 80. But the thing is, we had to do it twice.
Yeah, because the first one we had him go look at wasn't good.
And it's a good thing we did. The first Prius we looked at was being sold by a used dealer, and it looked fantastic.
And it was a dealership, and we thought, That's probably safer.
Yeah, and but as it turned out, the price was too good to be true. Because when we had the guy go, and check it out,
been in an accident,
which wasn't reported, and so there was structural damage that we would never have seen in a million years because at first glance it looked like it drove great, but he strongly recommended. So that was actually good that it worked out that way.
Yeah.
So, but that's what you've found most joyous to return to, Honey Pie. What were you happy to return to? See, what were you unhappy to return to other than the political situation? Although it's getting better.
Yes. I think I was talking to my mom, and she said basically I was sort of in grieving for the loss of our lives in Malta.
You were? Then, all right,
just
go on.
With kind of the moodiness and feeling a bit cranky, and I don't know if I want to say depressed. Depressed is a big word. I don't think I was depressed. But anyway, just, short-tempered, and I have to say I wasn't all sweetness and light for the last 6 months. But yeah, so, when you make a big change like that, it's stressful, and you're leaving stuff behind. You're having a little death, and you're starting a new life. So yeah, I think that I was missing. And then also we spent 3 months in England, which I love our house in England. I really enjoy being in England. So basically we got enough time to get settled in there and enjoy it. And then we had to move again. So I think there was that as well. Kind of another little death of, I would have been delighted to stay in England. But now we're here and we're getting settled, and every day, this feels more and more like home. So I would say that for me was the thing I most didn't like. I
haven't thought you've been particularly prickly. I mean,
thank you.
Yeah, you've been a bit, but just only to me, it was just due to the fact that we've just been under an insanely stupid amount of stress, and the stress increased to the maximum level once we actually got here, which was not our assumption. We thought, we get here, and all the stress of getting, of making 3 international moves. Is that right? Malta to England, England to here. 2 international moves in the space of 3 months. We figured, things just settle down, but things just went to an 11 in terms of absolute chaos, madness, and insanity.
Hell.
Due to the black sheep of my family, which was just a nightmare. We were only just now getting out from under all the issues and problems and legal ramifications that caused. Although I still have to make another call to the sheriff's office. But that's a story for another day. What are 3 trends you are happy to see in the... Oh, wait, no, that was a game question.
Okay.
Although, hey, honey, do you have any trends you're happy to see in the board game industry? You missed that. All right.
Sorry.
Yeah. What do you miss most about Malta?
Oh, I think what I miss most is that view of the sea. Just right out the front window and having that amazing sense of space there. But we've got a nice neighborhood that we live in now, and it's green instead of blue.
Mm-hmm. I would say home doctor visits.
Yeah, that was pretty nice.
Which is the most amazing thing. In Malta, you don't have to go to the hospital, although if you do, it's totally free. Instead, you can pay, 20 euros to have a perfectly fine general practitioner come to your house and check you out.
I think it was 10 euros.
It was crazy cheap, whatever it
might have been 20 because he saw both of us.
Yeah, I think that's maybe what it was.
Yeah, but our neighbor works in a pharmacy, and so she knew this doctor, and she said, I'll give you the name of the doctor that comes and sees me and my kids when we have a problem. He does house calls, and we're like, what?
I know. And we had him come several times, and he was really good.
Oh, yeah.
Very knowledgeable,
He was a doctor.
Great bedside manner, or couch side, since we were just hanging around in our own living room talking to the doctor.
Yeah.
That was the most amazingly positive, medical industry experience I've ever had. And, of course, there's nothing like that here.
Maybe there is. Home health care people come.
Sure, yeah.
But you have to be
$1,000
really
bucks
bad.
a visit or what have you.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to whatever it was, just crazy cheap. Name 3 vacation destinations you would love to go to or return to one day.
Oh.
Do it!
Okay, well, I definitely want to get to Egypt someday when I won't die doing it. I would like to go back to Cozumel. I would really like to do some drift diving there. And, we spent some time in Africa, and that was amazing. But we haven't been to New Zealand. So if I had to take it down to 3 places, I think it'd be New Zealand.
Yep. New Zealand and Australia and Indonesia. Okay.
Oh, actually Thailand. I really want to go to Thailand too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Only 3.
Oh!
Now you have to update your list.
Oh, darn it. I can't.
Just take Cozumel off the list. We've been there so many times.
Okay, fine. She did say, where would you want to go back to? I felt like I had to answer that.
She has 3. That is the rule.
The rule is 3.
According to Alicia, 3. No more, no less.
Oh, okay.
All right. Which one did you drop off your list? Now that you have New Zealand, Thailand, Cozumel.
And New Zealand.
That's no. And what was the first one you said? Oh, it was Egypt.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, I'm going to drop Egypt.
All right. I don't really think you're in any danger of dying if we went to Egypt. It would have been fine.
It probably would have been fine.
Yes.
Yes.
But Jen did not want to go in the middle of. I mean, there was some pretty bad turmoil for when we were really thinking about it. It was kind of at the height of all the instability. Alrighty. Griffin says, "What are 3 things?" Again, 3 things, Honey Pie.
Right. 3 is a good number.
You feel you and I share the most in common. And what are 3 things that we have least in common? And how do these common and different traits make us appreciate one another?
Wow. Did you?
Or not appreciate one another?
Do I-
Ha-ha!
Is it just me who has to answer this, or do you have to answer it too?
I spent like hours answering questions yesterday. So I think you have to take the lead on this.
Okay, 3 traits that we have in common.
Yes.
I would say our...
You need some help? Who are you?
What?
I
I don't even know you.
I mean, I would have thought that would have been pretty easy to answer.
Okay, you go first then.
Well, we're cheap.
Oh, right. Frugal. I would prefer frugal.
Yeah, we're cheapy peepees. Let's see. And yeah, that was the easy one. we're both very liberal leaning. We both have very, very similar political leanings. We're both atheists. Although you're kind of quasi, or you're agnostic, I guess. Not really. You just have your weird kind of get out of jail free. I believe there's energy.
Yeah, I like
it's
the
like,
energy thing.
Well, yeah, of course, there's energy. It's kind of a given. No, but I believe there's energy.
Well, what if we are just all one big pile of energy living off in our own little bodies? And if everybody would realize that we're all the same energy, then we would treat each other a lot differently, wouldn't we? There wouldn't be us and them. It would be all us.
I don't know that would necessarily follow.
Well, I think it would if we could all remember we were one big part of a whole.
I don't think it's the lack of.
You don't cut off your hand because it's, dirty or something, do you? It's all part of you.
You do if you feel you need to do that to survive.
Well, then.
And so, yeah,
I think you'd have a harder time surviving without your hand.
Socio-political issues would be resolved. I mean, I would love to say so. But hey, maybe we've now gotten into our differences. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Well, I was going to say that actually one of our similarities is that we don't feel the need to be involved in organized religion or sports.
Yeah.
So those 2 things help avoid a lot of stress and
our utter disdain for sports.
Well,
are you saying that's the source of a lot of stress in other relationships?
Hey, what if you liked the Steelers and I liked the Cowboys? Those are only the 2 names of something I could think of.
I believe
they may not
correct.
even be Steelers anymore.
They probably are.
Okay.
Probably the Steelers are somewhere.
Yeah, they were
potentially
yellow and black.
Well, there you go.
Were their colors. I do remember that. Anyway, from my childhood. So, wait, okay, we're doing similarities. So similarities would be lack of participation in a big organized anything. And then I would say, yeah, I think we have a very similar sense of humor.
Yeah.
So, and that certainly smooths a lot of life's mountains into molehills. And another similarity.
I think you've already done more than 3.
Okay, and then differences. I am going to say the biggest and most important difference is that I don't want to call it high maintenance, but basically I'm high maintenance and you are happy to go with the flow. And that is a huge difference because if we had 2 people that cared a lot about everything in different ways, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
Yep. We are very successful because he basically indulges me on 90 90%?
Jen is an alpha gamer IRL. If you're looking at the game of life.
Alpha gamer.
Oh, and
Is that alpha personality?
It's a common issue for some people playing cooperative games, that there's somebody around the table who feels obligated to take control of everything and make sure everything goes along their way.
Oh. Do I feel that? Do I feel that?
Oh, no, it's... yeah, okay, I overstated, but it is to say that...
No, I think an alpha gamer is somebody who starts directing things and kind of takes over the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've played with that kind of person before. I'm not that kind of person.
When did you play with that kind of person?
Other things that you weren't around.
What?
Yes, I have occasionally played a game without you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I think I know who it is then. All right, never mind. I got it. Yep. They shall remain nameless. I have no idea if they listen to the podcast. Or am I thinking of something? Well, anyway. Well, then, I'm sorry. What did you mean by that you're high maintenance and I'm laid back?
I care about an awful lot of stuff, and you care about... it's not that you don't care, it's that you don't have
I mean you're an alpha gamer in that you want to make sure things are set up and done the way you want them to be done. And I'm like, yeah, okay, it's not the way I would do it, but we can go with that. Oop, that's fine.
Yep. Okay, I'll go with that.
Yep.
And that is a huge difference, and that is what makes our lives work, is because he backs me up.
Yep. Alrighty.
And another difference.
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah.
You
ride the clutch and the brake when you drive, and it drives me crazy. We have an electric car now, and you're supposed to just try and kind of coast as much as possible so that you maximize your and he will accelerate and brake. So
there you go. That's one of the three biggest things.
Yeah, well, when we have a pretty successful marriage, so I have to be reaching here. I have to try and think of something. But since you drove recently, that is sort of fresh in my mind. He eventually said, "You know what, honey? I'll just pull over and you can drive." I'm like, "Okay." What else? Something else that we have difference of. I think there is a different... What did we just have an argument about? Was it last week or something? What was it? Yeah.
I guess I blocked it out.
I can't remember either. It was something like... Oh.
What?
It was about
what?
The black sheep of his family.
Oh. Well, I mean, that gets into another thing that's fundamentally different about us.
Yep. So I'd say the difference about that is that he is more forgiving. I am more of a burn your bridges,
fire and brimstone kind of girl.
No, not fire and brimstone. Just if you are a person that has taken advantage of me or screwed me over, I'm probably not going to let you back in my life. Maybe I have a strong protective instinct, but I just have never been one to put up with a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
I had a boyfriend who cheated on me in high school, and everybody expected me to stay with him, and I'm like, why would I do that? I mean, that is just crazy. I have, some standards, and yeah, they were very surprised.
Right. Jen's a one strike and you're out. Maybe two.
I would like to say
depending on the circumstances.
two. Yeah, and depending on how dear you are to me. But yeah, I mean, I don't give a lot of leeway.
Yeah.
I just think I'm a good person. Everybody should be a good person, and if you're not, then I don't really need to. I can't change you, so I don't need the frustration of having bad people in my life. Not that they're all bad. I'm just saying, I don't know. That sounds awfully unforgiving, but I guess
that is something you recognize in yourself.
Yeah.
That you are. You have a little bit less...
I'm lower tolerance.
I think I just have a greater sense of empathy than you.
That could very well be.
I think that's the main thing. Because I definitely think, I love you, but probably my biggest issue with you is I think you have a harder time seeing the world from a perspective other than your own. I think that's really kind of core to your nature. And that manifests in the way you try to teach me how to ski.
Yep. Basically, everybody knows everything I do, so let's just go do it all.
Yeah.
The same level that I do it at.
Turns out I did not know my first time on the slopes ever how to ski as well as Jen, seeing as how she's been doing it since she was a young girl.
Yeah.
But she just thought, why can't you go down this hill? What is wrong with you?
Let's put these skis
Look,
on
it's
your
like
feet.
this. Just do this.
Yeah, put your feet in the pie, and there we go. But
Tell you what, honey pie, why don't you just go on ahead and ski and I'll just be over here by myself, I think is how that ended up working out.
no, we stuck together. He did do the bunny hill at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, it was very unfortunate. I was a lot younger then. I have learned. Mm-hmm. I have gotten better. He has influenced me to become a better person.
Ah, well. Let's see. That was a deep question from Griffin.
Yep.
Moving on.
You've got all of our deep secrets now.
Yes, moving on to Stacy, who just got bit by the jigsaw puzzle bug.
Oh my.
Do you like jigsaw puzzles? I
can't remember the last time I've done a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, when we were a little kid, I guess. I'm sure I did plenty.
I used to like Mahjong quite a lot, but that was back even before Magic. That was when we were living in the house in Seattle.
We didn't play Mahjong. We've never played Mahjong.
Oh, yes.
I think you're thinking of like those digital solitaire Mahjong things. You have the big tower and you pull the stuff off. I know you played those a lot.
Oh, maybe digital
I don't think you're
Mahjong.
talking about real Mahjong. I think in your brain you've conflated.
Yeah. Okay.
There's some real verisimilitude on that Mahjong app in Windows.
Yeah, it
3.1.
was. Yeah, it was on the computer. You're right.
Yep.
You're absolutely right.
Stacy, I have no idea why you've been bit by the. I'm sure. What would be the attraction of a jigsaw puzzle? I mean, I guess there's a sense of satisfaction getting it done. It's really, it's kind of a passive exercise because you're kind of on autopilot. So it probably lets you free up your mind to maybe work on other stuff. Because look, I've got this thing I've got to focus on to be able to be successful at it, but it really doesn't require that much brain power. It's just pattern recognition, and so maybe that triggers something in your brain that.
Well, there's also a real
kind of
sense
zen.
of accomplishment too with making order out of chaos.
Oh, sure, yeah, totally. So I guess I don't know. We certainly have 50,000 heavily religious Jesus puzzles now out in the garage. I wonder why that is.
I think we got rid of about half of them too.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that charity shop made out like a bandit when we were helping Mom pack up.
Oh
definitely.
my gosh, yeah. Well, but you know what? It didn't do anybody any good sitting in a box somewhere. Now it's at least hopefully out there doing something good.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Stacy. We cannot join you in the Jigsaw Puzzle Brigade. But hey, if you know what you like, more power to you.
Yeah.
But Stacy continues. Any sites in Europe that you still want to go see or go back to now that you've left Europe?
Yes. 1,000 times yes. 1,000 places yes.
But not enough to make the top 3, apparently.
Well, I mean, actually, Dresden is one of the places I'd like to go to in Germany. I would really like to spend a week probably there because the architecture looks amazing.
Okay.
There's also a place near Dresden called Reichenbach, and they make wonderful glass. Wonderful glass. So I want to go tour the factory there. Let's see, where else in Europe? I mean, we haven't been to anywhere along the, what would you call it, the Western Mediterranean coast. Is it? No, it'd be the Eastern Mediterranean coast. All of the Croatia and Estonia and all that kind of stuff. We've been to Turkey, of course, and we've been to Greece and Crete. Cyprus, thank you. And of course, Malta. We've been there a few times. So I would like to go sort of down that part of the Mediterranean. I'd like to drive it actually and spend some time because it looks beautiful.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, I mean, remember we talked about doing that with Dad and Nance a couple of years ago.
Huh. Yeah, I guess I can. I mean, like Santorini and stuff like that. I mean,
well, Santorini's an island in Greece, so we wouldn't be driving there. But I guess we could get on a ferry. Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, but definitely
super ferries
Santorini would be wonderful. I really want to go there. Let's see, where else? I would like to spend a lot more time in France, actually.
Barely scratched the surface.
I haven't been to Portugal yet. I'd like to go to Portugal. You went.
We've been to. Oh no, yeah, just I've been. To
yeah,
Portugal,
he went there for Lyricon. But I just couldn't do it. I was traveling back.
Oh, that's
to the
right. Because
States
we
a
didn't
week
go
or
to
two
Portugal.
later.
We went to Madeira.
Yeah, we went to Madeira. Yep.
Which is Portugal.
Yeah, actually, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's off the coast of
same,
Africa.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, it's a shame you didn't come because we didn't spend much time with him. But the first night I was there, I was staying with Paulo, and he and his. Are they married? No, just SO kind of gave me a little tour of the city. That was really nice. Oh.
Well, the thing was, I was coming back to America the following week.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It was just...
Yeah, no, it was too much.
Too much. So, yeah, I mean, the answer is yes. There are a lot of places.
You haven't said anything about Nordic countries, which we've barely done.
Oh, I would love to do the Aurora Borealis.
Yeah.
In the wintertime and go up into Norway probably. Yeah, that would be awesome. And I'd like to, that same road trip that I was talking about earlier, we thought we would sort of head north and hit, what is it in Russia that I am very interested in? There's basically I don't have a map in front of me, and wasn't thinking this. But anyway, basically up to Russia and then into Norway and Sweden and kind of around. And then a ferry back over to...
What was it about this Russian town you wanted to go to?
It was just one of the really artistic places with amazing architecture.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was on the western part of Russia, not too far. I mean, directly north of Czechoslovakia. So I could find a map and look it up and tell you, but I just don't remember the name of it now.
Not that Russia's really Europe, but it's Europe adjacent, I suppose.
Well, it's kind of all on the European continent.
Yeah. You didn't say anything about doing more time in Ireland or Scotland.
True.
Done enough of that?
No, I have hardly been in Ireland. I would like to. Yeah, absolutely. But we assume that we are going to actually make it back and live in England again. So we'll probably just get another little camper van type item and.
Or maybe still have the one.
Yeah, we still have our one. We put it at this consignment place, and I do not know what's going on there. And it's just kind of like, oh, I should call. But
yep, one of those lingering stress points.
Yep.
Yeah. Charlie wonders, do you guys, let's see, we're avid movie and TV watchers, especially me, and have a projector. You notice a projector in some video. I assume that we watch movies. I've been considering getting a projector. Any suggestions on make, model, bulb technology, or
well,
must-have features?
Let me take this one.
Okay, honey, fine.
Okay, because I know
you just wanted this
everything.
one.
Yeah. I like the kind that turns on and is bright and quiet. There you go. That's all my recommendations.
I would not say I'm an expert at all. We have bought 3 projectors over the last 15 years, just kind of getting upgrades, and I always ended up getting rid of the old one. There's always been somebody who wanted to buy it. After, usually, you know, the big thing about projectors is you get probably about a year's worth of use out of them, and then you got to buy a new bulb because it's starting to get dim, and those bulbs can be a couple $100. So there is this kind of ongoing cost. And generally, after we've gone through a couple of bulbs with any of the projectors, we then say, instead of getting another bulb and replacing it again, let's just go on ahead and get a new one. We can just flip this one or give it to a coworker or something like that. Right now, it's an Epson... Oh, I don't know. An Epson 8345, if I recall correctly, is the model number. Yes, this is what my brain is full of. Epson 8345, and we're
silver.
really happy with it.
Or is it white?
Huh?
Is it silver or white?
It's white. You're thinking the old BenQ was silver.
Yeah.
Was that right? Yeah, I think the BenQ was silver. No.
Well, the one in Malta we had was silver.
Yeah, okay, it was the Panasonic that was silver. But yeah, I'm really happy with this one. Let me double check that. Maybe I'm getting it mixed up. But I'm really happy with the A345. The sum total of the research I do is all based on projectorcentral.com. That is a fantastic website. You know, it has like the calculators to figure out what model is ideal for you based on the size of your room and, you know, how big you want your screen to be and stuff like that. And, you know, really great ways that you can, oh, these 3 look really good. Let me do a compare and contrast so you can see at a glance what they all offer. Fantastic. I don't use it very often, but, you know, probably once every 5 years or so. When I go back to Projector Central, it's I highly recommend it. And yes, it is the Epson 8345. It's true, it's not a 4K projector, but, you know, we bought this, we got this like 3 years ago, and just 4K didn't, and 4K is still not here yet. It's just, there's not enough to warrant it. But probably the next time, again, in 4 or 5 years, when I get sick of replacing the Epson bulbs, we'll probably make a jump. And at that point, I'll just go back to Projector Central and figure out what the best cheap one is, because we've always gotten cheap ones. Because that's and as for screens, oh man, we got the screens for here in the States. I was shocked how much their prices have gone up. I've always been able to find them really high quality cheap ones for like, you know, £100 pounds/euros/ bucks, but this one, the best I could find was 150, and it's not really great. Finally, the smell seems to have gone away.
Yeah. Oh my God, it was so stinky.
Yeah.
That really chemically vinyl smell. Ugh, it was awful. We had to air the house, and if only we'd known, we would have stuck it in the garage and let it air out there.
Yep.
Because it took us 2 months to get it hung up.
Yes. Yes. I'm well aware.
Well.
But yeah, I don't really have that much to say about it. I'm not a cinephile, in spite of the fact that many years ago, back when we lived in Texas, the one boat cruise we went on. We went on because it was a home theater themed cruise.
Yep.
So there was a sizable portion of the passengers who were there to go to seminars and whatnot about home theater. And honestly, I think when I went to that and I went to some of the talks and whatnot, I realized, yeah, okay, I am not into this as much as you people are into this. Not at all. So Projector Central is my first and only recommendation there. Sorry, I don't know that it warrants. I don't have enough to say to do a full Rahdo runs through his cinema setup. Although I will say we are super duper happy with the uber cheap Insignia TV that we got from Best Buy.
Oh yeah, that's great.
I know. I mean, it was so crazy cheap for a 55-inch, and everybody said, "No, don't do it. Go for a name brand." But the Insignia, which is just their own brand, they do. It's been great, fantastic. Alrighty, Charlie wonders. Oh no, that was Charlie. Adam has this to say.
Yes.
It's his first question, first time question giver, long time listener. Oh no. I've got to come back to that. Right, that was a really good question. I got to make a note of that. Alrighty. All right, and that's a board game question. That's a board question. Oh yeah. What is your favorite thing about being back in the States? We could ask this question so many. We just got to keep coming up with new things.
Well, I think I've already said my favorite thing.
Come up with another.
Okay. Actually, I figured this out the other day. I've had 9 family thingies since we've been back, and that has been marvelous. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm going to say that's my favorite thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think, we were always upfront about the main reason we're doing this, moving back to the States, is because of my mom's, ongoing health issues and how she really needed help and wasn't getting it. But that wasn't the sole reason. The other reason, too, is because Jen's been so, cut off from her family, and she does her best to see everybody. She always does these yearly treks back home where she tries to squeeze visiting everybody in Washington and California and Arizona in just an incredibly tight, jam-packed schedule. And so she was really excited to just be able to hop on a commuter plane, at a moment's notice and just go out and hang out for a few days with her folks if she wants to, or with her sister and her family and all of that. And
Dad and Nance are coming here later today.
Indeed,
in just a few hours they'll be here.
Oh, you still got to vacuum.
We do, and make the bed.
Yep.
But that is amazing. And then I'm just looking ahead, and I'm going to go see them again in February because there's a big glass thing that goes on in Tucson every year. It's just incredible. And I'm going to see my sister in January. We're going to go do Harry Potter with my sister and my niece and nephew. It's really cool, and it's just so easy to just see people here.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be. I mean, I've seen my mom twice. Mm-hmm. She's come up, and so it's great.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna. Yeah, I should.
That's another good one.
Put that well ahead of the easy shopping.
Is it?
That is an everyday thing. The easy shopping. The visiting family those are big things, but they don't happen.
None of them are listening. What's really higher? Easy visit family or easy shopping convenience?
I'm gonna go with family.
All right.
Yeah.
She didn't cross her fingers or anything. That's the honest answer. All right. Also, this is going to be a bit tougher for you, honey. If you could be a character in any TV show, who would it be and why?
Oh, wow. That's a really interesting question.
Is it?
Yeah. If you could just be anybody.
Okay.
I don't know. I have to think about that. That is a very good question. Who would I want to be if I could be anybody at all? Oh. I don't know. I seriously, I would have to think about that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Who would you be?
Jake Sisko from Deep Space Nine.
All of the fun and none of the responsibility?
Jake Sisko, I think, is a fairly important character in Star Trek because he's just about the only main name character who proves that, it doesn't have to all be about going into Starfleet. It's totally fine to just live your life and do whatever you want. I mean, as I recall correctly, we've only ever seen Deep Space Nine once, but there was a series thread about how, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And, and he also went on to become a reporter or something like that. Or there was something, and he hung out with his grandpa to try and get ideas back on Earth, who just runs a gumbo restaurant. And to me, that was really eye-opening because Star Trek had always been portrayed as, in the future, you just work in Starfleet. That's what you do. And it's a quasi-military organization. Like, no, that's not the reality of of life in the perfect post-scarcity future of Star Trek at all. The reality is you can do whatever you want, and you don't have to feel bad about not fulfilling something. It's just, and Jake eventually realized that, okay, well, maybe I'll be a reporter. Maybe I'll just work at my dad's gumbo shop. Or maybe I won't do anything. Because that's the reality of human existence. It's paradise and utter complete perfection, except for the crazy, occasional megalomaniacal maniac who tries to destroy San Francisco, or big space tube that comes looking for the whales. But your day to day is just absolutely awesome. So this is just a follow on from earlier. There was a few podcasts ago. Oh, it was something that what was the best fictional world to live in?
Right,
and you said Harry Potter. I'm like, no.
I would like to live in Harry Potter.
I mean, sure, Harry Potter's okay, but I'd rather live in the crazy far-off future where everything is available to you and there's no turmoil or strife and you're free to just pursue whatever you want.
Yeah, well, that's all sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you put it like that.
Yeah.
So, that's... it's less to do with being Jake specifically, more being in that. But I just don't want to be in Starfleet. That's crazy. Who would be in Starfleet when you could just do whatever you want? But fair enough. That's the point of a post-scarcity society, is people are free to find their passion and whatever fulfills their life. So Jen's still thinking about it. She is literally just staring off at the ceiling.
Yeah. I think, Adam, you're going to have to send your question back in next month, and I will pay attention as I'm watching TV and see if I can come up with a good answer for that.
Okay.
I will take your question seriously.
All right. I was serious. I'd be Jake Sisko.
Yeah. Well, I
Although, to be fair, he did have to go through that whole Borg incursion thing. That wasn't very cool. So... But again, everybody in Star Trek's had some kind of, and I can't just be anybody in the background.
Yeah. You definitely want to be wearing red, though.
It could be, what was the name of the janitor at Starfleet Academy?
I don't know.
I mean, and you realize he does that job solely because he likes to, was it Busby? Bartleby? He wasn't a janitor, he was a gardener. Remember Picard had to go back and get advice or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe him. Because he's doing it right. Okay. He just likes tending flowers, so that's what he does. Alrighty. Alex wonders, have we ever wanted to visit I've always wanted to visit the Pacific Northwest, I being Alex, including Canada. If I were to vacation there, what would you suggest we see and do? We can't really say much about Canada. We've only ever been there. We did that one when we took your mom's van. We just went up to Vancouver.
Well, no, Victoria is really lovely. I think Victoria is nice. You have to get there on a ferry, I believe.
Okay.
But it's very British. That's probably why I liked it. When I was in Vancouver, because last time I came over to see Bobby, I kind of forgot that Canada was a different country than America, because I'd been overseas for so long, and they were kind of funny. They're like, you need some paperwork if you're a British person to come into the States. I'm like, oh, I'm also American here. Look at this passport, would you? But anyway, so I stayed in Vancouver overnight. That was my layover city, and I, for some reason, thought that was a really good idea, because I kind of did forget that there, was different country problems. Anyway, and so what I did is there is a sort of an area in the middle of Vancouver that is a little market area that has makers and lovely food, kind of artisan food and stuff. And so that's where I went. I only had sort of the morning to go do anything, but I would recommend that. And if you need me to look that up, but it's basically in the middle of Vancouver. It's on an island in the middle of Vancouver, and you can't miss it if you look at it on a map.
Okay.
So that would be for Vancouver, and that's.
All of Canada. That's the one thing to do.
I went up for Expo. What was that, back in like 94, I think it was, when the World Expo was in Vancouver. And I wasn't driving then, so I really couldn't tell you what we did or where we. So, okay then. So, of course, there's Mount Vernon is wonderful. If you are there in the springtime, they have a huge amount of tulips and bulb farms there. So it is a very amazing and colorful, beautiful place if you're there in the springtime. I would recommend that.
Well, that's like a couple hours north of Seattle, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really beautiful little islands that you can go to if you're up north of Seattle as well. I would recommend any of those. In Seattle, we love Pike Street Market. I love Pike Street Market. I go there every time. You would certainly enjoy that if you like a variety of food and flowers and handmade stuff and weird other stuff to buy. Let's see what else. What else? Oh, I think the Chihuly exhibit which is at the base of the Space Needle, is wonderful and amazing. I've been there twice, so I guess I'd say I'd go back. There's also a museum in Tacoma that is glass oriented, Chihuly-ish. So I would recommend that. That was really good. We went to that with your parents when shortly after it opened. So that's in Tacoma. I think it's called the Museum of Glass.
Let's call it the Tacoma Museum of Glass.
Yeah.
I'm sure a Google search will pull that up.
Yep. What else? We haven't really spent any time in Olympia. There's not a heck of a lot between Olympia and Vancouver that I can think of to do.
Oh no! You
Isn't
just
that
insulted all the fans in.
Well, I'm just trying to think of stuff to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. We haven't been here this long, so there's not much. So Pacific Northwest. So that would include Portland. Of course, Bullseye Glass, the maker of my raw materials, is in Portland, and they've got a factory there. You can go have a little look and see how things are made. I know it's all glass to me.
There's a recurring theme
Is there
here.
a theme? The thread runs
Alex
through.
didn't open saying, I'm a huge fan of glass, and I'd like to know what to do in the Pacific Northwest.
That's glass oriented.
Yeah, I don't think he said that.
No. Okay, well, what would you suggest?
Oh, I don't. I would suggest go to TripAdvisor and find top 10 things to do in this place, in this place, in this place.
Actually, the other thing I'd recommend is if you're a geocacher, go on geocaching and select some of the ones that have been highest rated, because we've always enjoyed that, and it takes you places you would never know to go.
Yeah.
And you see really cool stuff.
Yep. TripAdvisor to make sure you don't miss the big things, and then geocaching to see the little stuff that nobody knows about.
Yep.
That's pretty much our formula for any place we go.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, or just Google top 10 things to do in this place. And I mean, every time anybody ever asks me, what should I do when I come to Malta? You just go to do a search for top 10 things to do. And those will be the things to do, guaranteed. Alrighty. Tom wonders a few things.
Oh, look at Tom. He's so organized. Well done, Tom.
Yes. Jen's very impressed by your
He's
indenting subcategories.
Yeah,
Tom.
there's bullets and numbers and everything.
Yeah, that appeals to Jen's earlier observations about herself. Order to chaos. Now that we're back in the States, how has the current political climate affected you? Imagine being so far away from Malta and the UK, insulated a bit from the depressing recent insanity and erosion of constructive political discourse in the country. Hopefully, as you read this email, we find ourselves in a slightly more checked and balanced situation in Washington. You want to take that, Honey Pie?
I'm afraid I'm a bit of the head in the sand on this one. I just pretend that Jack Bauer is my president. Or what's his name?
Keith Sutherland from Designated Survivor. I do not remember his president character's name.
Oh, it'll come to me. Anyway, yes, I just pretend he's my president and hope that we can just get through this and move on.
Okay. Let's see. Well, obviously, the political climate hasn't really affected us because we are not in a disenfranchised minority. We are very, very lucky and privileged to be who we are, and we're in a country that's really kind of skewed in our favor, and it always has been for our entire lives. And it's something we can't just take for granted. We always have to remember that we are lucky to be born the way we are, where we were, and who we were.
Yes.
And so, yeah, in spite of the fact that there's just it can be super duper depressing. Certainly after the midterms, there's a lot to take solace in if you happen to be a pinko left-leaning commie like me and Jen. So, I just keep reminding myself, I have kind of an odd view about politicians in that I tend to give them the benefit of the doubt, even the ones I strongly, vehemently disagree with and think that they are personally responsible for literally destroying the planet and all of our futures. I do tend to think that they are, the fact that even if they've got the fundamentally wrong end of the stick and they just don't, and they have based their entire life philosophy and political philosophy on absolutely flawed worldviews that are born out of privilege and a failure to see the world for what's truly happening and having a stronger empathetic view of the reality of other people's lives. Still, I appreciate the fact that they were willing to get up and do something. That they didn't just sit back and complain. They said, well, okay, well, I have this particular view of how the world should be. I'm going to get up and do something about it. I know it's really easy to fall into, just deep vats and wells of cynicism about, they're all scumbags, they're all just in it for themselves, they're all just power-hungry monsters who are trying to do it to get rich, and the majority of politicians have much easier ways to get rich than going into politics. I believe most of them, not all of them, but most of them do it for altruistic reasons. And so, even if I fundamentally disagree with them, I think that is the goal, that is the path to getting anything done in life, is seeing the world from the perspective of somebody else, realizing that from their perspective, they are not a mustache-twirling villain. They're doing what they think is the right thing to do. And if you cannot walk a mile in their shoes, you'll never reach any kind of compromise that can lead to forward progress. That's why I was such a huge Hillary Clinton supporter, because that's really the basis of her entire political philosophy. Yes, understand the other side and be willing to compromise. And I know that's why, really strident and hardcore progressives hate her. They'll say they hate her for other reasons, but really that's the fundamental issue. That's why they're so anti-Pelosi, because oh my God, if she's looking for increment. Basically, I'm a big fan of incremental change. I think that's the reality of the human condition. We can't have overnight revolutions. They don't work. And any place where you say, oh, but what about this overnight revolution? Yeah, you know what? That came off the back of decades of slow, forward-moving incremental progress. That's the reality of how things work. And so I take solace in that things are getting better. And even if there are the occasional slips and, step backs, from our perspective, we are still moving in an overall positive direction. The one place where I can't actually take that kind of positive view on the dimmest and darkest of hours is climate change, because the earth don't give a damn, and if we keep screwing it over, we are truly destroying the future. And that really cuts to the core. That so that one will get me down and depress me. I know healthcare for all and student debt and gun control and so many other immigration reform, by which I mean open borders, please. Jeez Louise. Oh, I got so much grief from that Crown of Amara video the other day. But anyway, it's the reality of the future that we are moving towards. You can avoid it all you want, but we are better together than apart, and that includes borders. But anyway, sorry. All these things will get better in time. We will slowly work towards it. The one thing that has the real fundamental issue of not getting better is the damage we are doing to our planet. And I don't know, I try to stay positive about that too, that, we are incredibly smart little monkeys, and we will come up with technologies that at least minimize the impact and maybe even reverse it, maybe CO2 scrubbers. But as we get closer, I was going to say, as we get closer and closer to the cliff, and then climate change deniers say, see, you were told 20 years ago it was gloom and doom, and now you're saying it's only now is gloom and doom. It was gloom and doom 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we had a choice to hit the brakes so we didn't hit the tree, and we didn't. And now we're to the point where, we're going to hit the tree. There's no stopping it. But just because we're going to hit the tree doesn't mean we shouldn't still hit the brakes so we don't hit it as hard. This is so, that's the one thing that I have a very, very hard time being positive about, just because, oh man, it's super depressing.
And we don't even have kids.
Yeah.
All of you people out there with children.
Yeah. It's their futures that you're ruining.
Yeah.
With your steadfast refusal to accept the reality of the situation. And the situation is grim. So there's that. But otherwise, Trump He's not our first terrible president. He won't be our last. Sorry, Trump fans who are listening. Please, let's just agree to disagree. I respect your opinion, even if I don't agree with it. And I respect the fact that you went out and voted and tried to make the world more like what you wanted to see. If my side did that little bit more, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And ultimately, you'd see that everything's going to work out okay. Let's see here. So, yeah, that's sorry for the political.
We did get on that a bit, didn't we? Sorry,
Yeah.
we were gonna anyway.
Yep. Let's see here. And question 2, I hope you found a somewhat affordable health insurance solution. Sounds like you found something based on your recent Patreon post. If so, would you mind sharing what you found? I'm sorry, Tom, that gets a little bit too deep in, or too close to Jen's fundamental discomfort with talking about our finances. Suffice to say, I have mastered, it's not healthcare.gov, it's the Washington State has their own equivalent. Spent a lot of time there, spent a lot of time talking to people on the phone. I eventually got one of those, what are they called, advocates. Ended up talking to one of them. Oh man, it's so ridiculous. And we're not happy about it. We are not satisfied in any way, shape, or form, but I think we come up with the best solution we can, just like everybody else has to. I didn't have any secret sauce. I just tried to find the best thing I had within the ever-shrinking pool of options, unfortunately. And I can only hope that after the midterms, check again in a couple of years, and hopefully we'll have better options available to us than what was available to us right now. Alrighty. Henrik. Oh, no, we're coming back to you, Henrik. Oh. Wisdom of the month, honey pie. But in the meantime, okay. Alan wonders, let's see here. Personal request and comment have been, oh my God, I had no idea this was coming. Alan, has a personal request and a comment. Alan does not have a question. I remember when this came in, I'm like, okay, Alan, I'm more than happy to read it. I've been more and more concerned with climate change once I more clearly understood why it is happening and how hard it is to fix. I didn't realize all the new CO2 from fossil fuel sources would have to be put back into the ground at incredible cost in order to avoid disaster. I was wondering if you could remind your many listeners and viewers about trying to reduce fossil fuel use as much as possible and to look at the UN climate report. I think we have enough voices out there saying, if we have enough voices saying no more fossil fuels, we'll start to see change. And speaking of that, I've been disheartened by some of our leaders' words and actions on this topic. However, I found it encouraging in your last Rahdo runs through where you said that our future was similar to Star Trek, where our basic needs are met and we can just explore living our best life. It's refreshing to hear an optimistic perspective. Alan, I'm so sorry that I was a bit less optimistic just before, but yes, you're entirely right. I mean, obviously, Jen and I, we have kind of a get out of jail free card because we don't have kids. So our carbon footprint is so inconsequential.
Yeah, we have not created little...
We have not created little carbon generators that will create more carbon generators that will create more carbon generators. I mean, the line ends with us.
Yep.
Although my brother has more than made up for that with multiple different ladies over the years. But anyway, yeah, it is a real problem, and it is incredibly disheartening. And... man, what was the South Park the 2-part South Park we had was a really interesting one. As a follow-up to the Man Bear Pig story from back when Inconvenient Truth was originally out, and the parroting of the very, very slow, but it is coming, the slow realization on the other side of the argument that maybe 95% of the world's scientists do have a point, and maybe those other 5%, maybe that one dentist out of the 5 who says it's totally fine to just cover your mouth with sugar, maybe we should listen to the 4 out of 5 instead of the 1 out of 5. It does seem like there is, like I said, South Park, I think, is a very good cultural bellwether, and the fact that they are choosing to lampoon and parody the very slow changing perspective is still, representative of the fact that there is, given time, everybody's going to come around to the reality that, yeah, money is not worth destroying the future. And and it is unfortunate it's going to come too late to avoid. I mean, we're living through the worst of it.
Yeah,
What is
all these floods and fires and
Yeah, I mean,
natural disasters that are happening. It's
on us, baby.
Yeah.
It's on us. And you can go on ahead and listen to your 5% of scientists who say otherwise, but we'll stick to the 95%, thanks, because they kind of know what they're talking about. And yeah, you know what? The blue wave, more power to you. Hashtag blue wave, awesome, is going to make steps. And, the rest of the world gets it, even if gun-toting, Bible-thumping America doesn't, or big business. The way big business has co-opted the fundamental good nature of conservative voters in America and twisted them to serve their needs, and they don't even know it. It's just amazing to me, just how red voters have been duped. But it hardly matters. Yeah, you're right. But it's certainly great if anybody who can afford, get a hybrid or an electric car if you can. But still, any individual is a drop in the bucket. The best thing you can do is, not have kids. If the ship has sailed on that, the best thing you can do is continue to put pressure on politicians because they're the ones who can truly change the tide. And I believe there are many who are working hard on it. It's so depressing to hear the number one issues of the day being healthcare, though. Believe me, healthcare is an important issue in America, but the Earth's healthcare is much, much more important. I would happily put campaign finance report on hold if we could get, better restrictions on, government incentive plans, whatever it needs to be to start turning it around, because it's not fixable. It's not fixable anymore, but at least we can slow down our inevitable, driving off the cliff that we're doing or slamming into the tree on the icy road that we decided to completely ignore. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Steve says,
Sorry, I was just looking at pictures of cats on dogs because that was really depressing.
Okay.
Yep. So I've got all these adorable pictures of cats sleeping on top of dogs.
Excellent.
I'm just kind of off in my own little world here.
That would be how you deal with it.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Let's see. Actually, why? Oh no. Here, I got to scroll down. Do you and Jen buy each other games for Christmas, or do you have enough of them?
Oh gosh, we don't buy each other anything really. A long time ago, I read a book called The 5 Languages of Love.
Okay. And
it was really illuminating to me. I'd never thought of it before, but basically, people show love and receive love in different ways. I mean, in our culture, it's primarily gift giving or gift receiving that allows you to show someone you love them. But there's quality time, there's acts of service, there's verbal, just actually being able to tell somebody you love them, physical touch, and gift giving. So when I read that book, I realized I am not a gift person at all.
You were just doing it because it was kind of societally driven into you. Yeah.
My mom's very much a gift person. She loves giving presents and things. And I think, it might also be a generational thing. Mm-hmm. But anyway, no, I realized, and this was probably 25 years ago in our marriage, that, first of all, neither of us likes to go shopping and stuff. So Duck would try and get me something that I would like, and it was always awkward and everything.
I think I did pretty well, though.
You did very well.
You made it really easy with your whole bird's eye maple thing.
Yeah.
That's all I had to do was just go to some local shop that had
handmade shop
and say, "Hi, what do you got made out of bird's eye maple?"
Yep.
And you still got several of those things to this day.
I do, absolutely. But anyway, the point is, gifts don't make me feel loved. They actually make me feel kind of awkward. And trying and then equally giving gifts is such a stressful thing because you've got to find the perfect thing and you've got to get it there on time and I just don't like it. So maybe it's selfish of me, but what I would far rather do, and the way that I receive love myself, is acts of service. And to me, that's actions speak louder than words, maybe. I'm not sure, but that is the best way to prove to me that you love me. And so when Mr. Ham is out there digging a hole for my rose bush or whatever, I know that he truly loves me. And nothing needs to be said. Although we're very verbal as well. But to me, it's definitely acts of service. And so, you can take that whole moving to America thing as the biggest act of service I could probably ever do in my life to support Bobby. And I don't think that she recognizes that because she's not an acts of service lover. But I am. That's what I do. So, no, we don't buy each other stuff.
Damn, Steve. I bet you weren't expecting that deep an answer.
Yeah.
Damn.
I am.
Yep.
And aren't you happy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How relieved you were
Well, another
when I
thing
came
too,
up with this?
the anti-gift, or not anti-gift, but the realignment. I remember when you said, having read that book, let's just stop doing Christmas.
Yep.
And birthdays. Actually, I don't think you went right to birthdays. You were still like, we can still do birthdays, but eventually we weaned off of that too.
Yeah, and actually we started doing, like, going on trips or doing something together as opposed to a item.
But I mean, another big side of it, getting back to the other thing, is, hey, maybe being a little bit less consumeristic isn't a bad thing either. That buying something for somebody doesn't have to be, thereby creating more stuff. And just I know it's ironic for me to say, sitting in this room surrounded by all this stuff, but
Well, and after our big thing about how fabulous it is to be in America.
yeah.
Buy stuff.
But it is still something that is important to me to try. I guess probably as close to spiritual as I get is the kind of casting off of stuff, not being beholden to stuff. So not feeling obligated to buy gifts all the time as a proof of our love is a great way to cut down on the stuff footprint as well.
Yep.
Alrighty. Where will you be spending Christmas this year? Now that you're back in the States.
Here.
Yeah.
In fact, we've just decided we've done enough traveling and craziness this year. We just needed to have some at-home time.
Yeah. My mom, probably, literally, not exaggerating at all, easily a third of...
Oh, God. All the crap we moved down here.
I was going to put it that way. I was just going to say a third of the stuff we are storing in our garage, which is literally half full of stuff. Probably a third to almost a half of all that is Mom's lifetime supply of Christmas ornaments and decorations, big and small.
Yeah.
And so we're going to stay here, even though Jen and I are not big on it at all. It's just not our thing. You used to like decorating the house with your Dickens Village stuff.
Yeah, actually, that was a big part of my childhood. Is every year for Christmas, I'd get a little Dickens Village house. They're little ceramic houses that you could stick a light in, and then they'd light up, and you could make a village, with little paths and little people and whatever. Yeah, so, and actually I have gotten a bunch of my Dickens Village stuff back because my sister was storing it for us when we were overseas. So I am actually looking forward to getting that out and making a little village.
Yep.
This year.
Yeah, so that'll be and so we'll deck the halls bigly, which is definitely something we don't do. But I mean, I know Mom will really enjoy it, and that's why we're here, trying to make things as fun for her as possible, seeing as how she's pretty restricted in what she can do with her various medical issues. So that's the plan for this year.
Yep.
And he didn't ask for Thanksgiving, so we don't have to talk about Thanksgiving. All righty. Do we have any other Christmas plans, though?
Oh, well, I'm going to really enjoy being here. I'm going to go around. There's loads of little markets and community events and things like that. So I'm just going to kind of
There was one today that she skipped on to talk to you people.
Yes, but...
The Snowflake Fair.
Bazaar. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. That's it, honey. We are to the end of the road, and so once again the question comes. Oh, actually, wait, no. The question does come. I'm sorry, I can't. I was just while Jen was talking, I was looking through it. I can't find it. Somewhere amongst the game-related questions, there was the question yesterday. Did your mom ever figure out what setting would be ideal for a board game? Because when my mom. Oh. When I did that Q&A that only Ramble backers get to see. The question.
Oh, yeah.
The question was put to her. What setting would she like, and she said, I'll think about it. I went and asked her, and she just laughed and laughed and laughed because she did not think about it. She, in the 3 months since we did that interview with her, answering your questions, she had not given it a second thought with all the other insanity that's been going on. So it just tickled her pink to even think back to that. So I said, well, it's okay, Mom, if you don't have an answer. And she thought for a little bit, and she said, what I'd be most interested in. She thought about how she had tried to get me and Ryan to play the game of life as kids, but we didn't take to it because it's obviously a terrible game. But she thought it was really important for us to be able to see some of the issues that life has in store for us. And so she said she'd like to see settings like that. So I didn't tell her about, hey, there's CV and My Story and Pursuit of Happiness, and there's kind of a renaissance of that kind of thing, and a Fog of Love. And maybe that'll be something maybe we'll try and play some CV with her. I don't know if she'd be able to handle it.
I think she'd love it.
Well, yeah. There's a lot of icons. But, so that, I'm sorry, I couldn't find the original email, but that was the answer to your question after giving it some actual thought. Yes, Honey Pie.
Oh, what games did we played that game with my mom? What was that game?
What did we play with your mom?
It was a card game.
Boomerang. The card drafting game?
Yeah.
The Tour Australia game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, she liked that. My mom liked that.
Well, yeah, your mom likes games.
Yeah, I'm just mentioning.
Oh, I mean, just, pinochle and type games. I mean, I think that's, you got your love of classic card games from her, didn't you?
Yeah.
That she played with you, and then she realized she had to stop playing with you because you took it a little too seriously. Right. Okay. So, Henrik once again asks Honey Pie, it's time.
All right.
What's your wisdom of the month?
Okay.
And how do you get your wisdom of the month? What is this?
Oh, I get on Pinterest. I like Pinterest a lot. So when I see something a quote that comes across my Pinterest feed that speaks to me at the moment, I save it, and then I have something to say.
And so I'm looking at it. You have what? You have dozens?
In this
Hundreds?
In this board, I have 118 pins in my thoughts and grins.
Thoughts and grins pins.
Yeah, look at this. Hedgehogs.
Hedgehogs.
Isn't that adorable? It's a little caricature of two hedgehogs hugging each other. Hedgehogs.
Yeah,
Is that not adorable?
What were you saying earlier about us sharing the same sense of humor? I'd say there's one exception to that. I'm not big into the puns. Jen loves the puns.
Here's a picture of a ruler pointing at a rock, and he goes, "You rock!" And the rock says, "You rule!"
Yeah.
That's adorable!
It is cute.
My picture of cats on dogs.
Uh-huh.
And here's a picture of two tiny ducklings in a teacup.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
this is sort of like where I go when I have to.
This is Jen's therapy page.
Yep. So yeah, I could just kind of keep things on here that I.
And so, do you have a new one?
Yes, I'm ready. Okay, it says, a beautiful day begins with a beautiful mindset. When you wake up, take a second to think about what a privilege it is to simply be alive and healthy. The moment you start acting like life is a blessing, I assure you, it will start to feel like one. Time spent appreciating is time worth living.
All right. I dig that one. Okay, folks. And that's it. Another podcast in the bag. And we'll be back probably not a month from now because I forgot to apologize right up front for being 2 weeks late with this. Sorry, but we're trying to get back on schedule. We'll have the next one probably in early December, and hopefully I'll have a few new games of interest that have popped up, although it's the end of the year, so that's probably not going to happen. But as always, send those questions into questions at Rahdo.com so you can get more of this quality entertainment. And otherwise, I'm going to say have a very, very nice day.
So long.
Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.